Rain fell on the Black Death sect. It was a cold, unending downpour. Into this den of murderers, a lone shadow walked. He had come to deliver judgment. Lightning split the sky. For a heartbeat, the darkness was banished. It revealed a figure in a wide hat and black cloak, his hand resting on his sword. He stood alone in the muddy courtyard. The sect members swarmed from the buildings, their faces twisted with hate. A voice roared through the storm. "He's here. The nameless swordsman is here. Kill him." The horde surged forward, a wave of steel and fury. They thought their numbers would overwhelm him. They were wrong. The swordsman moved. He was a phantom, a whisper in the storm. His blade became a crimson blur, painting the rain red with the blood of his enemies. Men fell before they even knew he had passed them. Beneath the brim of his hat, his eyes were calm. There was no rage, no fear. Only the cold, empty purpose of the Reaper. More warriors rushed to fill the gaps, their steps splashing in pools of blood. Their leader's cry echoed again, a desperate command. They had to stop this single man who was dismantling their entire sect. The swordsman dropped into a low stance, becoming the eye of the storm. With a tight grip on his blade, he met their charge. He was a whirlwind of precise, lethal cuts, and bodies continued to pile up around him. He spun, his cloak fanning out like the wings of a dark angel. The arc of his sword was absolute, severing limbs and lives without distinction. The air itself seemed to warp around his impossible speed. A hulking brute saw an opening and lunged, his massive blade raised high. He roared in triumph, believing the fight was over. "I've got you now, you fiend." The swordsman did not even turn. A flash of blue light erupted from his upward strike. In a moment of pure, shocking power, the giant's body was torn asunder, his triumphant cry cut short by an expression of disbelief. The swordsman's gaze remained unchanged, his focus absolute. The rain washed the blood from his blade. In the courtyard, a dead hand lay open, reaching for a sword it could no longer hold. He stood alone in a field of corpses. The first battle was over. Without pause, he began his slow, deliberate walk toward the sect's main hall. An old man waited on the porch, watching the rain. The twin serpent emblem on his robes marked him as the leader. He looked at the carnage not with fear, but with weary resignation. The elder rose and stepped out into the storm. Two figures, one light and one dark, faced each other across the courtyard. They were the final pieces of this bloody game. The elder's voice was like gravel. "So you are the nameless swordsman?" The cloaked figure gave no reply, his silence a heavier answer than any word. The elder sneered, "If you're a swordsman of justice, why are you wrapped up so tightly?" From beneath the hat, a low voice answered, "Because I'm not one." The elder's eyes narrowed. "Then why do you hunt and kill the unorthodox faction?" The swordsman's head tilted up, revealing eyes that burned with crimson rage. The elder laughed, a broken, wheezing sound. "Ha ha, so you have deceived them all." The swordsman's shadow loomed. "I have deceived no one. They simply believed what they wanted to believe." "What an interesting man you are." The elder drew his sword, its steel shimmering with blue energy. "Even if I must cross the river of the dead today, I don't think I'll have any regrets. Come then, whether you are the nameless swordsman or not, you are here to kill me all the same." Both warriors took their stance. The air crackled with their opposing chi. For a moment, the world stood still, the rain hanging suspended in the tension between them. As a single drop hit the ground, they exploded into motion. Their eyes locked, filled with pure killing intent. The courtyard became a chaotic blur of steel, blood, and rain. Silence fell once more. The swordsman walked away from the ruined sect, his blade dripping. A small, grim smile touched his lips as he passed through the main gate, leaving nothing but death behind him. Lightning flashed again. He removed his hat, revealing the face of a young man, stained with blood and sorrow. The weight of his violent path settled upon him as he sheathed his sword. The storm is only witness. When the lines between game and reality dissolve, a new legend is forged. Lazy Manhwa presents a world where a psychopath's bloodlust becomes the very key to his ascension. He thought it was just a game, a place to hunt the monsters hiding in human skin. But what happens when the game becomes real, and his most twisted wish is granted? Welcome to a playground built for a killer. Plum blossom petals drifted on a silent wind. They danced through the air, their delicate pink a stark contrast to the crimson they were about to meet. One petal landed, sending ripples through a thick, viscous pool. It was not water. It was blood. A foot stepped into the spreading pool, uncaring. The ground was slick with it. Before him, a courtyard of death. Bodies lay strewn across the stone, a testament to a brutal, one-sided slaughter. In the distance, an army had gathered, their banners fluttering under a blood-red sky, ascending the steps to the desecrated temple. They had arrived. The great sects of the Murim, united. Shaolin, Wudong, the mightiest martial artists in the land stood together, their faces a mixture of confusion and disbelief. One of them spoke, his voice heavy with sorrow. To think the manhwa I once knew would end up like this. Their eyes scanned the field of the fallen. A monk clasped his hands in prayer. Amatba, another warrior, his face contorted in rage, could not contain his horror. This is the work of a demon. Who on earth stained Mount Hua with this much blood? Just then, a leader's eyes narrowed. Wait, someone's coming. From the center of the carnage, a lone figure stood. His robes were tattered and soaked in red, a single plum blossom emblem still visible. He was a Mount Hua swordsman, the sole survivor. He turned to face the assembled masters, his voice a hollow rasp. Mount Hua is annihilated. By just one person. The leaders gasped in shock. A plum blossom swordmaster. You're still alive? Before they could process his words, the survivor launched. He became a streak of crimson energy, a blade thirsty for more blood. He's coming. To your positions, a monk roared. Block him. They braced for impact, but the charging swordsman was intercepted. In a flash, he was cut down. Out of the temple's dark doorway, another figure emerged, stepping casually over the newly dead. In his hand, he held the severed head of the Mount Hua sect leader. He looked upon the assembled masters. Shaolin, Wudong, Qingqian, Namda, the greatest powers in the land stood arrayed against him. Unimpressed, he spoke, his voice laced with a chilling amusement. You certainly brought quite a crowd. A furious master bellowed. Silence. Who are you? Why have you committed such a massacre? The figure simply smirked. I came because I heard Mount Hua was the strongest. He lifted the grisly trophy. But it seems rumors can't be trusted. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Is this guy, the sect leader of Mount Hua? One stammered. The killer ignored him, pointing his bloodied sword at the entire army. A terrifying question hung in the air. Well, since you've all swarmed here together, I assume you're stronger than Mount Hua was. The insult was the final spark. One of the leaders let out a choked cry of rage. Their killing intent surged. I will kill you right here and appease the souls of Mount Hua. 3 masters flew forward, their techniques a storm of righteous fury. But their target only smiled. As I thought, this place is a lot of fun. The world fractured. The image glitched and dissolved into static. With a sharp pull, a young man named Dong Bongsu tore off a VR headset, gasping for air. He was back on his couch, a game controller in his hands. The game case lay nearby, Murim Online. It was a recently developed virtual reality Murim game, notorious for its extreme violence. Protests demanded it be shut down. But for players like Bongsu, there was nothing else like it. He stared at the game case, a thoughtful look on his face. He leaned back, watching the news. A CEO named No was reported missing. Bongsu mused to himself. I should try a more quiet approach next time. His eyes gleamed with a dark idea. Assassination seems like a good choice, too. The scene shifted to a dark, cold room. Muffled pleas echoed from the shadows. Spare me. There, bound and beaten, was the missing CEO. Bongsu stood over him, a heavy sledgehammer resting on his shoulder. The CEO babbled, tears streaming down his bruised face. Please, I don't know why you kidnapped me, but I really didn't do anything. His pleas were pathetic, desperate. Bongsu listened, his expression unreadable. Bongsu dropped a handful of photographs onto the floor. They depicted the CEO's gruesome acts, his victims captured in their final moments. The CEO stared in horror. Bongsu's voice was cold steel. If you had truly done nothing, you wouldn't have become my prey. The CEO began to grovel. I am reflecting on my actions. Please spare me. Bongsu's lip curled in a cruel smile. But that phrase, spare me, between you and me, isn't it getting a bit tired? He raised the hammer high. A sickening crunch echoed, followed by a choked scream. The hammer fell again and again. It was a brutal, merciless beating. The CEO's pleas turned to whimpers, then silence. But it wasn't over. A surge of unnatural energy flared. The CEO's bonds snapped. He rose to his feet, his body warped, his eyes glowing with hatred. You fiend," he snarled, his voice a low growl. "You're dead meat." Bongsu's eyes widened slightly in surprise. The CEO charged, screaming, "I'll kill you." Bongsu sidestepped the clumsy attack with practiced ease. He ducked under a wild swing and countered with a vicious blow of his own. The fight was short. Bongsu was a predator toying with his food. A flurry of precise, powerful strikes sent the CEO crashing to the floor. Broken and terrified, the man could only crawl away, whimpering, "Stay back, I don't want to die." "Most humans are herbivores," Bongsu began, his voice a low monologue. "Among them, a small number of carnivores attack and hunt those weaker than themselves." The CEO looked back, seeing not a man, but the silhouettes of all his victims surrounding him. A terrifying shadow fell over him. Bongsu stood there, his eyes glowing red in the dark. "And I am the hunter who hunts those carnivores." The CEO shrieked. "Stay back, you crazy psycho." A final, swift punch silenced him for good. Suddenly, the door burst open. A squad of police officers swarmed in. A sharp-dressed detective stepped forward, badge held high. "Don't move. Dong Bongsu, I'm arresting you on charges of kidnapping and confinement." "And murder." Bongsu froze, his mind racing. How did they find this place? Before he could move, the detective raised a revolver. "I said don't move, you punk." A deafening gunshot echoed as the detective fired a warning shot that embedded itself in the wall beside Bongsu's head. These are live rounds. Cornered, outnumbered, surrounded by armed men. The situation was quite similar to the game. Bongsu let out a low chuckle. The detective was confused. "Do you have any idea? This scumbag killed 6 women, tortured them. The corpses next to him are all murderers." He pointed to the bodies Bongsu had collected. "These guys are beasts, carnivores." His gaze hardened, his eyes glowing with an eerie red light. "I'm just the hunter who catches those beasts. Do you understand? The one you should be shooting is this guy." The detective lit a cigarette, unimpressed. "Is that so? But all I see is a psychopathic killer." Bongsu sighed, stretching his back. I guess I really can't communicate with the police." He dropped his hammer. The detective roared, "Freeze." Another shot rang out. This time, it found its mark. Pain erupted in his chest. As his vision faded to white, a single thought echoed in his dying mind. "If there is a next time for me, I hope there are plenty of beasts I can kill without worry. Yeah, a place like the Murim." Darkness, then a blinding, peaceful light. Water. He was choking on water. He gasped, sputtering, his lungs burning. He blinked, confused. "I'm alive? I definitely heard the gun go off." A gruff voice broke his confusion. "Oh, I thought for sure you were dead." An old man glared down at him, then grabbed him by the collar. "Do you have any idea how much I struggled to drag you from the marketplace, you little brat?" he roared, shaking him furiously. Bongsu's retort was cut off by a smile. "Should I just kill you for real right now?" The old man scoffed, shoved him to the ground, and stormed off. "TSK, see you tomorrow. I'm done." Bongsu watched him leave, alone in the dark room. A jolt of agony shot through him. Cough. "Dang it. My body." He collapsed, his limbs twitching. He looked down at his hands, his torso. This wasn't his body. It was emaciated, scarred, broken. "It's not mine," he whispered. "Where did all these scars come from?" He dragged the unfamiliar body to the window and looked out. His breath caught. Under the pale moonlight, he saw a familiar temple. He knew exactly where this place was. The name echoed in his soul, a place he only knew from a game. The Murim? He fell to his knees. A single tear traced a path down his cheek, then another. And then he began to laugh. A quiet chuckle that grew into a mad, joyous cackle. "My wish has come true." A new reality dawned. Player, Dong Bongsu. Welcome to the world of the truly strong. Welcome to Murim Online. His eyes, wild with psychotic glee, promised a river of blood was about to flow through this world. In the dim light of a stable, a young boy named Sosam quietly went about his chores. The scent of hay and horses hung heavy in the air, a familiar part of his bleak existence. Suddenly, the doors burst open, and a figure stormed in, shattering the peace. So-sam flinched, recognizing the arrogant silhouette of Lord Matchell. Pinching his nose in disgust, Lord Matchell demanded So-sam follow him for a job. The boy stammered, trying to explain his chores weren't finished. Matchell's patience wore thin instantly. His face darkened, his voice dropping to a low threat, questioning if he looked like a man who asked for favors. A rough hand seized So-sam's collar, yanking him forward. Matchell spat insults, reminding the stuttering orphan of his place. He was nothing more than a slave, taken in by the Danry clan out of pity. So-sam's eyes widened in terror, his world shrinking to the cruel words and the tightening grip. Matchell dragged So-sam across the courtyard to the clan's armory. There, a portly man named Dong-o was already waiting. When the blacksmith asked about Matchell, Dong-o smirked, casually lying that his supposed brother was off drinking with women. The blacksmith sighed, noting the mountain of swords that needed moving. With a wicked laugh, Dong-o gestured to the trembling So-sam, calling him their beast of burden. He punctuated the insult with a vicious kick, sending the boy sprawling into the dirt before ordering him to get to work. Feigning a sudden memory, Dong-o declared he too had an appointment and couldn't possibly help. He abandoned So-sam with the impossible task, sauntering off without a backward glance. The boy remained on the ground, defeated, as the old blacksmith watched with a look of helpless pity. As dusk bled across the sky, So-sam worked. He hauled load after crushing load of steel, his small frame straining under the weight. Each trip chipped away at his remaining strength, his entire world becoming a haze of pain and exhaustion. When the final blade was moved, the blacksmith approached, his voice laced with concern. "Good work," the old man started. "But child, you look like someone who is about to die." So-sam's complexion was ghostly, his breathing shallow. He forced a weak denial, insisting he was fine, but his trembling body betrayed the lie. Stumbling through the darkening streets, a profound chill seeped into his bones. A voice echoed in his mind, questioning his miserable, bug-like existence. His vision blurred, and his legs gave out, collapsing to the ground with a final, reflexive apology on his lips. His life flashed before his eyes. He saw the storm that claimed his family, leaving him the sole survivor. He remembered knocking on the Danry clan's gate, a starving orphan begging for a chance just to survive. Every memory was a link in the chain of his suffering. The memories of torment were relentless, overwhelming him. The deep cold became unbearable, a frost settling over his very soul. With his last breath, he whispered a single, unanswered plea into the darkness. "Save me." Then, in the silent stable, something stirred. The body on the floor jolted, and eyes snapped open, now glowing with a sinister red light. A new consciousness looked out from the borrowed vessel, a chilling grin stretching across its face as it struggled to its feet. He stared at his reflection in a water trough, the face of a stranger staring back. The name So-sam echoed in the vessel's fading memories. He pieced it together with cold detachment. The original owner of this body had been beaten to death, and he had just moved in. Suddenly, a shimmering blue window materialized before his eyes. It was a status screen, identical to the one from his favorite game. The text was unmistakable. "Welcome to Murim Online, the world of the truly strong." Meanwhile, Lord Matchell grumbled to himself as he carried a bowl of feed. He cursed his luck, wondering why he, a man of his standing, was forced to deal with such menial tasks. The hypocrisy was lost on him as he complained about the very chores he forced upon others. He stewed in his annoyance, worried that the weak-willed So-sam might run into the infamous psycho, Peng Duriyang. He had sent Dong-o along as a guard, but the measure felt flimsy. Trouble was brewing, and he could feel it was all because of the useless stable boy. A murderous thought flashed through Matchell's mind. Just kill the boy and be done with it. He quickly dismissed it. The risk was too high, and he'd be the first suspect. Consumed by impotent rage, he kicked open the stable door, ready to vent his frustration. "You useless moron," Matchell bellowed, flinging the bowl of food at the figure seated in the shadows. The bowl and its contents splattered across the boy, who didn't even flinch. Instead, a slow, unnerving smile spread across the new So-sam's face. 2 weeks had passed since he woke up in this world. 2 weeks of observing, listening, and analyzing. He was no longer the broken boy Matchell had known. He was a predator, patiently learning the layout of his new hunting ground. He had reached his first conclusion. This place used their own script and had its own culture, but the true difference was something more profound. Here, martial arts were not fiction. Here, chi was a tangible force. He had seen men fly through the air and move faster than the eye could follow. It was just like the legendary tales, and, more importantly, just like the game. This was a live-action version of Murim Online, and he was standing center stage. His second conclusion was even more critical. The status window from the game was real, and only he could see it. He clenched his fist, feeling the solidness of the body, the pain, the hunger. This was no game. This was reality. Every person here was alive, with their own emotions and wills. They weren't programs. He pondered the question of his own existence. Was he human or a player? The thought was amusing, and he let out a low chuckle. It didn't matter. Just then, the bully Dono appeared at the door, his face a mask of cruel delight. He sneered, complaining about getting punished because of So-Sam's incompetence. He loomed over the seated figure, ready to inflict his usual torment. Unaware, he was approaching a loaded cannon. Dono paused, surprised to see So-Sam eating so calmly. He began to shout, his voice rising with rage and his hand balling into a fist. But his threats died in his throat as the figure looked up, revealing eyes that burned with a blood-red light. Before Dong-O could process the danger, the new So-Sam moved. A blur of motion, and a hand clamped around the bully's throat, lifting him from his feet. The man's face turned purple, his angry shouts turning into choked, gurgling sounds of panic. He leaned in close, his voice a low growl against the bully's ear. "Guak Dong-O, that kid you used to know," he hissed. "He died a long time ago." This was not an apology, it was a promise. With a sickening crunch, he tightened his grip, crushing bone and cartilage. Dong-O's eyes went wide in a final, silent scream of agony as his life was extinguished. The hunter showed no emotion, only cold, brutal efficiency. Blood sprayed across the dark stable, painting the walls in crimson. He stood over the crumpled body, a demonic silhouette wreathed in a red mist. This act of violence hadn't horrified him, it had awakened something deep within. He felt the warmth of the fresh blood on his skin. "It's hot," he murmured. Human? Player? The labels were meaningless now. This raw, brutal moment confirmed it all. This place was, without a doubt, reality. This world was a battlefield, governed by the law of the jungle. It was survival of the fittest, a principle he understood perfectly. Here, he wouldn't have to hide his true nature. Here, he could finally hunt to his heart's content. A thrilling thought occurred to him. In a world this savage, he couldn't be the only one. Other carnivores, even stronger and more monstrous than he, must be roaming this vast jungle called the Murim. A slow, predatory smile spread across his blood-stained face. He looked forward to meeting them. His path was clear. He would let this borrowed body recover, let it grow stronger under his command. Reaching toward the heavens, he accepted his new fate. For the true predators, the hunt was just beginning, here in the new Murim. He sat within the ruins of his own making, blood spattering the walls. He was no longer just a player following a script. This was a hunt. A new purpose settled in his cold eyes as he considered his next move. He had to verify something. He uttered the system command by instinct. Inventory. A shimmering blue portal materialized before him. But something was wrong. This interface was alien, different from the game he once knew. The old game had a simple grid system. Finite slots for finite items. This was an entire dimension. He plunged his hand into a swirling, limitless void that defied the old rules, its scale staggering. His gaze fell upon one of the bodies littering the floor. A crucial test was in order. Reaching out, his hand covered the corpse's face as he thought the command. Store in inventory. The body glitched like corrupted data, dissolving into a torrent of light. In an instant, the massive form vanished without a trace. His eye, reflecting the light, widened in shock and terrible delight. This was an unbelievably useful feature. A chilling question surfaced in his mind. What about living things? Would they survive in that endless space? The rules of this new world were his to discover, and he was eager to experiment. Daylight brought a new identity. He was now So-Sam, the stable's mute fool. He swept the courtyard, an invisible servant among gossiping thugs. Every moment was an act, a part of a much longer game. A hand suddenly grabbed his hair. It was Matchel, a worthless bully from the sect. He taunted the boy's silence, but So-Sam only responded with a gurgle, a broken and unsettling smile playing on his lips. Matchell shoved him toward the stables, disgusted by his apparent weakness. "Take that horse for a walk," he spat. So-Sam bowed his head, playing the role of the perfect, mindless subordinate. He led the horse through the bustling market. A sea of faces, sounds, and smells washed over him. But his eyes were not idle. They catalogued everything, every escape route, every potential target. From a dark alley, they emerged, local children with cruel intentions. A rock sailed through the air, striking his head and drawing blood. He did not flinch. He simply stood there. "Look at the dummy," they jeered, their voices filled with scorn. "Mute So-Sam." He turned his head slowly. Pure, undiluted killing intent poured from him, and the air grew deathly cold. Their taunts died in their throats, replaced by whimpers of fear. So-Sam calmly patted the horse's neck, ignoring their terror. He turned and walked away, leaving them trembling in his wake. Their fear quickly turned back to foolish bravado. They shouted insults at his retreating form. He kept walking, head bowed, a storm of red rage swirling just beneath his skin. Later, Matchell grumbled, tired of his duties cleaning weapons. He threw open the armory door, only to find So-Sam, the mute he'd sent on an errand, exiting the room. Matchell's jaw dropped. The armory was immaculate. Every sword gleamed, every blade perfectly ordered. He stared in disbelief as So-Sam simply gave him a vacant, creepy nod. This was impossible. The lazy, useless brat had somehow become a model worker. He was fast, efficient, even proactive. Matchell wondered aloud. Has he finally become a decent human being? So-Sam then held out a small pouch, the jingle of coins unmistakable. Matchell's surprise turned to greasy laughter as he snatched the money. He thought the boy was finally learning to bribe his way through life. As Matchell walked away, gloating over his prize, he didn't see the look in So-Sam's eyes. It was a cold, flat stare, devoid of emotion. The fool didn't realize he was paying for his own funeral. With newfound wealth in hand, Matchell headed straight for the red light district. He gleefully tossed the coin purse in the air, dreaming of the night ahead, completely unaware he was being led to his doom. He was greeted warmly by the proprietor. Feeling powerful, Matchell waved off his usual choice and demanded a specific girl. "Bring me Chosen," he ordered, a lecherous grin spreading across his face. The request was unusual, but the money was good. The proprietor agreed immediately and showed Matchell to a private room. "Wait here," he said with a knowing smile. Matchell sat, blissfully unaware of the trap. Chosen entered, and her beauty stunned Matchell into silence. She was on a completely different level. He laughed eagerly, gesturing for her to join him and pour a drink. But they were not alone. Unseen by the pair, a single red eye peered through a crack in the wall. A new voice, cold and predatory, whispered from the shadows. "Come a little closer." The true hunt had begun. At the Banyang Inn, a deal was struck. The proprietor promised the hulking brute, Matchell, the company of a woman named Chosen. Though inwardly disgusted by his lecherous client, the innkeeper's morals dissolved at the sight of gold. This smile was pure avarice. A second figure appeared, a gaunt young man swallowed by shadows. The innkeeper recognized the boy, So-Sam, and his expression soured instantly. He moved to dismiss the silent visitor, his voice dripping with contempt for the seemingly destitute youth. The innkeeper's threats died on his lips. So-Sam presented a heavy pouch of his own, the clink of coins shifting the balance of power. Greed, sharp and sudden, flared in the proprietor's eyes, overriding all his previous disdain. His face contorted into a fawning, grotesque grin. He directed So-Sam to a room, promising him the finest company. As the boy ascended the stairs, the innkeeper clutched his newfound fortune, utterly blind to the predator he had just welcomed. Inside his room, Matchell preened, admiring his own brawny form in anticipation. He never saw the shadow that moved behind him. A cloth whipped around his neck, pulling brutally tight, and his arrogant smirk vanished. A choked gasp was his only defense. Matchell clawed desperately at his throat, his immense strength useless against the silent, efficient assault. Air became a luxury he could no longer afford as the world began to fade to black. The struggle was short-lived. With a final, violent jerk, So-Sam broke the brute's resistance. Matchell's heavy body crashed to the floor. From the darkness, a single red eye watched with cold satisfaction as the last spark of life faded. So Sam straddled his victim, a chilling, triumphant smile carved onto his scarred face. His eyes, burning like crimson embers, held no remorse. This was not murder. This was art, the pure, unadulterated joy of a successful hunt. The deed was done. Matchell lay still and silent on the wooden planks. So Sam rose, his bare feet making no sound. He stood over the body, a predator savoring his kill in the profound quiet of the aftermath. After a moment of quiet contemplation over his work, So Sam prepared for the next step. He surveyed the room, his gaze landing on the body before moving toward the door. He peered through a crack, ensuring he was unobserved. Returning to the corpse, he placed a hand upon it. A blue, grid-like light enveloped the body, dissolving it into particles of data. With a silent command, "Store in inventory," the evidence of his crimes simply vanished. His practice had paid off. This inventory system was a perfect tool for a hunter like him. It would make his future hunts cleaner, more efficient. A cold thought flickered in his gaze, a promise of more to come. He accessed the system menu, and his theory was confirmed. A progress bar had filled slightly. He had gained experience from the kill. In this world, the path to power was paved with the lives of others. The cycle became terrifyingly clear in his mind. Killing grants experience points. Experience leads to leveling up. Leveling up makes him stronger, which in turn makes the hunt easier. The loop was perfect. His eyes widened, reflecting a horrifying and beautiful truth. In this place, he could become infinitely strong. A wide, manic grin stretched across his face. What a truly wonderful world, he thought. He took a moment to admire his handiwork. Using the cloth garrote, he propped up the dead man's head, posing it like a grotesque sculpture. His own eyes, soulless and empty, stared back at the lifeless face, appreciating his creation. He felt a flicker of disappointment. It was a pity he had no camera to immortalize this masterpiece. Down the hall, a guard stood watch, completely oblivious to the silent slaughter that had just concluded. Footsteps echoed in the hall. The woman, Ing Yang, hesitated nervously at the door. The innkeeper shoved her forward, his patience thin. "Get in there," he grumbled. "A paying customer is still a customer." The proprietor waited, listening, but the silence from the room was absolute, unnatural. His annoyance curdled into suspicion. He knocked sharply, calling for Matchell, but only silence answered his call. His patience snapped. "Are you two seriously ignoring me?" he roared, slamming his fist on the doorframe. Pushing the door open, his rage turned to confusion, then to stark, mind-numbing terror at the scene within. Before a scream could escape his lips, a shadow launched. He was seized and dragged into the suffocating darkness of the room. A heavy thud echoed, followed by an unnerving stillness. From outside, a faint voice called, "Brother, Matchell." The land of Anhui, a place blessed by rivers, known for its fertile plains. Since ancient times, wealth flowed through its veins like water. But where money gathers, so too do the jackals. Hordes of bandits from unorthodox factions ran rampant. In response, great clans rose to uphold the code of Murim. Among them, one stood as the greatest in Anhui, the Namgung clan. Yet another name carried weight, the Danri clan. Though smaller, their power was specialized and sharp. They wielded the Cross-Heaven Sword Division and the dreaded Black Crow Squad. The Black Crows were masters of intelligence, their network so vast even the beggar sect had to concede their superiority. But recently, even these peerless information brokers were stumped. A new, unsettling case had them grasping at shadows. Within the clan headquarters, Black Crow Squad leader Gi Daehyo reviewed the latest report. His expression was stone. Another suicide. He muttered to himself, "It's a plague." His mind reeled from the numbers. Nearly 100 deaths in a few short months. Far too many to be coincidence. But the strangest part was the perfection of each case. Every piece of evidence pointed unequivocally to suicide. No signs of struggle, no foul play. His instincts screamed that it was impossible, a meticulously crafted lie, but the facts were cold and unyielding. Daehyo focused his inquiry. Who was the first to die? His subordinate answered. An armory artisan from our own clan, a man named Ma Chiel. The chill in the room deepened. The rot had started from within. He demanded to know the location of Machiel's death. At an inn, sir. The Phoenix Tavern. Without hesitation, Daehyo rose. Let's go. This demanded his personal attention. His subordinate was taken aback, questioning the need for the leader himself to investigate. But Daehyo's resolve was absolute. No, he declared, his gaze fixed. I have to see it for myself. They arrived at the Phoenix Tavern, where the innkeeper led them to the room. The man shuddered, recounting the grim discovery. He and a woman named Chozian had found Machiel hanging from the rafters. Daehyo entered, his mind a whirlwind of possibilities. If this is a string of murders, he thought, how did the culprit get in? He methodically inspected the room, noting the boarded windows and solid door. His subordinate confirmed his findings. The room was a fortress. Every nook and cranny had been searched. Daehyo's eyes narrowed, settling on the only remaining possibility, a wall made of thick, vertical logs. He ran his hand along the wood. Removing these logs would create a passage, but the problem was glaring. The logs were pristine, showing no signs of ever having been moved. He questioned the innkeeper, who confirmed his suspicion. The logs were set into grooves in the floor and ceiling beams. It was architecturally impossible to remove them. A flicker of doubt entered Daehyo's mind. Was it really a suicide then? One last thread to pull. Was anyone in the room next door when Machiel died? The innkeeper's face lit with recognition. Yes, there was another guest, another member of the Danri clan named Sosum. Elsewhere, Sosum tended to his horse, a status window hovering in his vision. The experience points from his recent kill were substantial. He mulled over the simple truth he'd discovered. That man must have been a martial artist. The system was clear. Killing stronger prey yielded greater power. However, he knew his current limits. He was weaker than even the lowest warrior of his clan. He needed prey to bridge the gap between commoners and true martial artists. As if summoned by his thoughts, a group of thugs appeared, their leader's leering grin splitting his face. Well, our little Sosum got handsome. They surrounded him, their voices dripping with mockery. They taunted him for his stoic silence, their condescension palpable. Sosum's eyes, hidden in shadow, narrowed. Street thugs. He recognized them as the former bullies of this body's pathetic life. A flash of disgust went through him. How could a member of the Danri clan be pushed around by such scum? Their arrogance was an insult. Losing patience, they grabbed him, dragging him toward a dark alley. Shoved into the grimy alley, his horse startled. A cold, practical thought bloomed in his mind. Could I kill them all here and make it look like suicide? With his inventory, it was certainly possible. He quickly dismissed the idea. The risk of being discovered was too high for such a meager reward and experience. For now, a more strategic patience was required. He would take the beating and deal with them later. The thug leader sneered and threw a punch, striking Sosum hard. As the others prepared to join in, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the air. Stop! A man stepped out of the darkness. The lead thug's face went pale with terror. Django, sir. Sosum's eyes flickered with recognition. Django. He knew that name. Django completely ignored Sosum, his gaze falling upon the horse with avarice. What a fine horse, he purred. He intended to take it as a gift for his leader, his decision final and his smile menacing. Sosum felt the man's blatant killing intent. The horse was just a pretext. The real goal was murder. Django leaned in close, his patience gone. I don't ask twice. For the first time, Sosum spoke, his voice an icy challenge that stunned the thugs into silence. Then just kill me. Why bother asking twice? The sudden defiance shocked them all. He uttered a single word, inventory. A blade materialized from a rift in space, faster than the eye could follow. It plunged deep into Django's throat. The man let out a strangled, gurgling cry. Django collapsed, his hands weakly clawing at the sword buried in his neck. His eyes were wide with disbelief, silently asking, how? He choked on his own blood and fell to the ground, dead. Sosum was not finished. A maelstrom of energy erupted around him as ethereal chains shot from his inventory, wrapping around the other thugs. They screamed in terror, trapped by a power they couldn't comprehend. A system window flashed. A torrent of dark red energy exploded from Sosum's body, his silhouette twisting into something monstrous and demonic. The last conscious thug stared, his mind broken by fear. A demon. He's a demon. His terror turned into a final, desperate roar of defiance. Run? No, kill him. Everyone, kill that fiend. The thug's roar of defiance died in his throat, replaced by a choked whimper of pure terror. Survival instinct screamed. He scrambled to his feet and fled into the darkness, desperate to escape the demonic presence behind him. He risked a glance back, his mind reeling. What on earth is that? That thing. The alley was filled with an aura of absolute dread. He stumbled onward, his plea a ragged whisper. Help me. There was no escape. A vicious kick shattered his leg, sending him sprawling into the street. Pain exploded through him, but the fear was worse. He clawed at the ground, his strength fading with every inch. A shadow fell over him. It was Sosum, moving without haste. The thug's pathetic life flashed before his eyes, a nobody who acted tough but was just a money bag for stronger fighters. And now, his life was ending at the hands of this monster. I just wanted to make some money like usual, he thought, a final, pitiful justification. Before he could beg, a hand seized his head, slamming it into the stone with a sickening crack. Then, only silence remained. In the darkness of the tavern room, the proprietor awoke with a shuddering gasp. Pain throbbed in his head. His eyes adjusted, and the scene of carnage sent a fresh wave of terror through him. He saw the calm figure sitting amidst the bodies and shrieked, A demon? Sosum sighed, rising to his feet. He pressed a cold blade to the proprietor's throat. The loud one who died first, he asked, his voice flat. Who was he? The proprietor stammered. Are you talking about Django? Sosum's eyes glinted. Django. He mentioned something. Black. The man's eyes widened in terror and realization. Black Snake. It's the Black Snake Society. Desperate to prove his worth, the man spilled everything. The Black Snake Society is one of the ebony syndicates that rules the back alleys of Banyan. Django was an executive. Sosum processed this. An organized gang. Interesting. Sosum recalled more. He also mentioned a leader. Yes, the proprietor yelled. The leader is Bang Pyom. He ordered Django to kill Master Sosum and bring back the horse. A gang, a hierarchy, a boss. Sosum's lips curled into a predatory smile. Fine, he whispered. Tell me everything you know. If the information is useful, I'll let you live. The proprietor's face exploded in manic, desperate joy. His joy was fleeting. His information was useful, but his life was not part of the bargain. Sosum commanded. Inventory, and the last of the bodies vanished. He surveyed the clean alley. Phew, is that everything? He sat, exhausted but satisfied. He had learned several important facts. He needed prey to level up, and the Ebony Syndicate had just presented itself. A perfect target. From now on, he would hunt them. The power of a level up surged, and he watched in fascination as his wounds knitted shut. Not just cuts, but old scars vanished from his hands. A dangerous thought sparked in his mind. If it could heal his body so perfectly, could it heal a fatal wound? A damaged brain? The acceptable level of risk had just increased dramatically. However, there was a glaring flaw. The brilliant flash of light that announced his level up. It was a beacon that would invite unwanted attention and danger. His power, his inventory, his very nature must remain an absolute secret. To be the ultimate hunter, one must be unseen. He had to become a ghost, a face in the crowd, utterly indistinguishable from the rest. He would time his kills, leveling up only when the hunt was over, and only when there were no witnesses left but the prey. He took the reins of his horse and walked out of the alley as dawn broke. The night had been a valuable lesson. Had Django been smarter or stronger, the outcome might have been very different. He would not make such a mistake again. He melted into the waking city streets. The simple camouflage of a mute was no longer enough. He had to grow stronger, quickly and quietly. The only path forward was to hunt bigger, more dangerous targets. As he solidified his resolve, a heavy hand clamped down on his shoulder. Are you Sosum? A voice growled. Sosum froze. Did you kill Matchel? Before he could turn, a torrent of hostile blue chi erupted from the man's grip, burning into his flesh. A series of critical errors flashed before Sosum's eyes. The Murim Online system was glitching, stuttering with a message that there should be no issues. This all began the moment he hit level 2. In the quiet solitude of a stable, he knelt before the glowing blue window, pondering the unstable nature of his new reality. A chilling realization dawned on him. The cause of the error was him. He, a being who should not exist, was operating within the game's framework. The system was breaking under the strain of this fundamental paradox. He covered a sharp, unsettling smile, a silent laugh shaking his frame at the cosmic irony. He thought to himself, isn't my very existence the ultimate critical error? It was far too late for the system to complain now. Dismissing the warning, he pulled up his status window. The interface looked different. It was evolving. His eyes narrowed. Where there had once been unreadable question marks, there were now tangible gauge bars for his stats. He wondered if this, too, was a side effect of the error. Or perhaps it was a concession, an admission by the system that reality could not be so easily quantified. He navigated to the Skills tab. A list of passive abilities appeared, their icons glowing in the dark. Slash, stab, block, throw. These were the standard, basic skills every new character in Murim Online received. They were familiar, almost comforting in their mundanity. But what about this one? At the bottom of the list was a skill he had never seen before, Spirit Eye. In all his years as a top-ranked player, this technique was completely unknown to him. With no description to guide him, his eye began to glow with a faint, curious light. Suddenly, a new alert chimed. Sosum's eyes widened as another message materialized. The numbers ticked down with terrifying speed. 16, 15, 14, he understood instantly. It was an early warning system, a skill designed to detect overwhelmingly powerful threats. A predator's sense, gifted by the broken system. He heard the soft crunch of boots outside as the counter continued its descent. 13, 12, 11. Sosum rose to his feet, his fist clenching. He turned to face the door, his body coiled and ready for the confrontation he now knew was coming. His mind raced, analyzing the situation. It was probably not an enemy in the traditional sense. The Danri clan's territory was well defended. Besides, a true assassin would move with stealth, not the slow, deliberate pace of this approaching individual. The counter dropped. 10-9. A 10-level difference, he mused. He remembered the blood and effort it took just to reach level 2. To reach level 10 or higher. How many lives would that take? Thousands. Tens of thousands? The thought was staggering. A potent blue aura flared up just outside, visible only to his newly awakened spirit eye. The counter reached 0 as the wooden door slid open, revealing two figures silhouetted in the sudden light. The moment of truth had arrived. A stern-faced captain of the Danri clan stepped inside, his gaze sharp and accusatory. He wasted no time. A heavy hand clamped down on Sosum's shoulder, the grip like iron. "Are you Sosum?" The man's voice was a low growl. Sosum froze, his blood running cold. The pressure on his shoulder was immense. "Did you kill Matchel?" the captain demanded. Before a word could be spoken, a torrent of hostile blue chi erupted from the man's palm, searing Sosum's flesh and invading his body. He cried out in agony. The captain's internal energy surged through Sosum's meridians, searching for the telltale signs of a trained martial artist. But it found nothing. It was like pouring water into a desert. Sosum's body was a void, an abyss that swallowed the energy whole, leaving no trace. The captain pulled his hand back, his expression clouded with confusion. The probe had yielded nothing. "Ugh, ha!" Sosum gasped, clutching his shoulder. With a thoughtful the captain turned and gave a single command. "Let's go." His bewildered subordinate quickly followed. They left him standing alone in the suffocating darkness. The physical pain was already fading, but a new, burning rage took its place. As his face was swallowed by shadow, two crimson eyes ignited, glowing with cold, murderous fury. He had been violated, tested, and found wanting. Never again. Outside, the subordinate hurried to catch up. "Captain, why did you leave without a proper interrogation? You were suspicious of him." The captain replied coolly. "Yes, I was. That's why I checked him by injecting my internal energy. If he'd practiced even a little, there would have been a trace." "And?" the subordinate pressed. The captain stared into the night sky, his voice flat. He was empty. He had no internal energy at all. "He's just an ordinary person." The captain looked up at the moon, his thoughts drifting back to the city's string of bizarre suicides, the mystery deepening. Under the eerie moon, the captain worried about a plague of despair. He was wrong. Contrary to his worries, the so-called suicide plague vanished from Bongyang entirely. In its place, a new, far more violent wind of slaughter began to blow through the city streets. Sometime later, a storm raged over Banya. Rain lashed the streets as thunder cracked the sky. Inside a warmly lit tavern, patrons sought shelter, their voices a low murmur against the gale outside. A drunken man, sloshing his drink, leaned towards his friend. "Hey, have you heard the story?" he slurred. "Of course," his friend replied. "About the nameless swordsman? Everyone knows." The man slammed his cup down. "He's the great nameless swordsman. He's killing those fiends from the Ebony Syndicate." "Sho, keep your voice down," his friend hissed, glancing around nervously. But the drunkard roared with laughter. "Let them hear. The White Tiger Unit and Red Wolf Sect are already gone." His friend paled. "But the Black Snake Society is still left. If they hear you." The drunken man's bravado didn't falter. "Their time is coming soon," he boasted. "Our great swordsman will crush those." His words trailed off as the tavern door creaked open, silencing the room. A lone figure, draped in a tattered black cloak and a wide-brimmed hat that hid his face, stepped in from the storm. Rainwater dripped from his ragged hem as he walked through the tavern, his steps silent and purposeful. He paid no mind to the patrons, his destination clear. As he exited, a brilliant flash of lightning illuminated his path. It revealed the imposing, fortified gate of a compound not far down the street. It was the headquarters of the Black Snake Society. The hunt was on. A torrential downpour lashed the Black Snake Society headquarters. The lone guard on duty had foolishly succumbed to sleep. A sharp blow jolted him awake. His partner's voice was a furious hiss. "You think you can sleep right now? Get it together. The nameless hero is on a rampage." The senior guard's face was grim, his eyes betraying deep-seated terror. "He's already wiped out 3 of our rival sections 3. His voice dropped to a grave whisper, heavy with implication. "We're the only ones left, so..." He let the words hang, his gaze turning to steel. He opened his mouth to berate his subordinate again, but the words died in his throat. A flash of motion, impossibly fast. A spray of crimson painted the air. The junior guard could only stare, his mind blank with confusion. "Huh." The guard's dawning horror crystallized on a single thought. "And no way? Is that the Namely?" His question was severed along with his head. The cloaked figure, Sosum, stood over the carnage, his blade dripping in the rain. The severed head rolled down the stone steps, its eyes forever wide in terror. With the sentries dispatched, the path was clear. Sosum's eyes, burning with cold purpose, fixed on the massive gate. He placed his hands upon the cold wood and pushed. With a deep groan, the entrance to the Black Snake sect's den swung open, revealing a rain-swept courtyard. It was a trap. A volley of arrows rained down from the walls, seeking to turn him into a pincushion. But he was a phantom, a blur of motion that danced between the deadly projectiles. He landed softly in the courtyard as an army of thugs emerged from the shadows behind him. A burly man, clearly their leader, stepped forward with a confident smirk. "Hey, I knew you'd show up." He drew his sword, its edge hungry for blood. "You nameless rat." As if summoned by his challenge, a brilliant fork of lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the grim tableau. The leader's roar cut through the thunder. "Kill him! Kill that fiend!" The horde surged forward, a wave of steel and fury, but they crashed against a whirlwind. Sosum became a blur of motion, a vortex of scarlet chi and lethal grace, carving a path through their ranks. A new power surged through him, a system skill activating in the heat of battle. A torrent of red energy exploded from his blade, a devastating arc that scythed through flesh and bone. Men screamed as they were torn asunder, their charge turning into a chaotic, bloody rout. "Curse it!" One warrior, driven by desperation, roared his intent. "I'm the one who's taking his head." He and a comrade lunged, a pincer attack meant to overwhelm. But Sosum was fluid, moving under their clumsy assault and thrusting upwards. In one brutal motion, his blade pierced them both, binding them together in a grotesque final embrace. They were bound, helpless. Seeing an opening, another brute lunged from behind. "You coward!" His specialized hook blades latched onto Sosum's arms, his grip like iron. A triumphant, cruel grin spread across his face as electricity crackled around his weapons. "Got you, you little fiend. Now keep still while I take your head." But Sosum was not trapped. He was merely waiting. A pulse of blue light emanated from him as he accessed his system inventory. The thug's grin faltered as a blade materialized from thin air behind him. His mind reeled in disbelief as the cold steel plunged through his skull. How? How did a blade come from behind? Amidst the chaos, the leader saw his chance. He hurled a dagger that found its mark, slicing into Sosum's arm. He laughed, a wild, relieved sound. I finally got a piece of you, didn't I? Seeing the blood, his courage returned. You're just a human after all, a human I can kill. Sosum calmly pulled the blade from his flesh and let his wide-brimmed hat fall to the ground. The leader's bravado froze. Wait, what's with this guy? Why are you laughing? The face revealed was not one of pain, but of pure, unadulterated ecstasy. They had not wounded a man. They had unleashed a monster. Elsewhere in the compound, a lesser leader hid as the screaming died down. Ga? Are we really going to die to just one man? He whimpered, clutching his head. He tried to reason with fate. We just shook people down. We only killed people who were beneath us anyway. Why us? His fear solidified into a desperate resolve. I have to kill him right here. He knew a back path, one that led to the true leader's estate, the Paradise Manor. Okay, he thought, steeling himself. Come and get it, you fiend. We have the advantage in the dark. The cloaked figure appeared in the courtyard below, right on cue. The man's terrified scream echoed in the rain. Fire! A storm of arrows descended, 100 points of death converging on a single spot. He held his breath, peering into the darkness. Is he dead? A sickening crunch, followed by a spray of blood, answered his question. The archers in the rafters cried out and fell silent, one by one. Panic seized the man. Hey, no way. Are you guys all dead? From the shattered remains of the scaffolding, a shadow emerged, untouched and unbothered. Trembling, the man raised his sword. Are you the nameless hero? What do you want from us? What did we do that was so wrong? A single, crimson eye glared back from the abyss of the cloak. In his final moments, the man shrieked, You aren't the god of death. What right do you have to judge us? His words were cut short by a final, silent strike. Sosum stood over the fallen, his expression unreadable in the storm. I only want one thing, he whispered to the dead. Your lives. The lesser thugs were gone. The courtyard was a graveyard. Now, only one target remained. His gaze lifted to the lit manor in the distance, his hunt drawing to its true conclusion. The leader of the Black Snake sect, Bang Pyong. His hunt began with the White Tiger unit. Though killing Django had granted him a level, it was a hollow victory. He knew his own weakness. Against true members of the Black faction, he was still nothing more than prey. So he did not fight fair. He became a ghost in the shadows, a whisper of death. Luring, ambushing, even arson. He used any method, however dishonorable, to whittle down their numbers one by one. The bodies piled up. By the time the leader of the White Tiger unit took notice, the damage was done. Panic began to fester within their ranks. More than half of his vaunted unit had already fallen to a single, unseen phantom. But the world saw something different. To the officials and the oppressed townspeople, he was a savior. They gave him a title born from their hopes, the nameless righteous swordsman. This mask of justice became his greatest camouflage, allowing him to hunt the unorthodox faction with even greater ease. The hunt culminated in a final confrontation. When the leader of the White Tiger unit fell, the system rewarded him handsomely. Level 5, and with it, his first active skills, Qinggong, a body lightning technique, and the Three Forces sword art. With newfound power coursing through his meridians, he was finally ready. He could now face the true masters of the Black faction in direct combat. As his legend grew, even children began to play games, mimicking the righteous hero he pretended to be. One by one, the pillars of the underworld fell. The Red Wolf Gate was erased from the world. Soon, only one stronghold remained in Banya, the Black Society. Rain fell upon the society's headquarters, each drop washing the world clean. On a veranda overlooking the storm, a man sat in quiet contemplation. His robes were marked with coiling snakes, his presence ancient and still. Bang Poyam, leader of the Black Society. A figure emerged from the downpour, stopping at the foot of the stairs. Lightning flashed, revealing the hunter. Poyam's eyes opened, his voice cutting through the storm. So you are the nameless righteous swordsman? Sosum stood motionless, his silence a heavy answer. Poyam scoffed. Heh, if you're a swordsman of justice, why are you wrapped up so tightly? From beneath the soaked hood, a low voice replied, "Because I'm not one." Poyam's eyes narrowed. "Not a swordsman of justice? Then why do you hunt us?" Sosum's face twisted into a grotesque, joyous snarl. "I am not a swordsman." A dark chuckle escaped Poyam's lips. "Ha ha, so you have deceived them all." Sosum's silhouette spread like a demon's wings. "I have deceived no one. They simply believed what they wanted to believe." "What an interesting man you are," Poyam mused, his hand finding the hilt of his blade. "Even if I must cross the river of the dead today, I'll have no regrets." He rose, his challenge echoing. "Come then, show me what you've got." Poyam lunged. Blue chi exploded from his form as he crossed the distance in an instant. Sosum met him, a demonic red aura flaring to life. The moment stood still, a fragile raindrop between two forces of nature, before shattering into a violent clash. Steel screamed. The courtyard became a canvas of blurred strikes. Poyam's experience was a fortress, deflecting every blow. He found a slight opening, his blade grazing Sosum's flank. It was a shallow price for the information he gained. Poyam saw his chance. An opening. He lunged, but Sosum knew the strike was a feint meant to test him. A calculated risk. Instead of dodging, he took the blade deep into his shoulder, trading flesh for position. A fountain of blood erupted in the rain. Sosum staggered back, his body screaming in protest. Poyam's grin was predatory. "Ah, as I thought, your body isn't in perfect condition." The old wound, now reopened, was a fatal weakness to be exploited. The assault was relentless. Poyam became a viper, striking the same wound again and again. Each parry sent agony through Sosum's arm. The grim reality set in. At this rate, he would definitely lose. A desperate resolve burned in Sosum's eyes. Even if he had to sacrifice his own flesh, he would find a path to victory. Poyam sneered. "What is riddling your mind in the midst of this fight?" As he lunged for the kill, Sosum met him with the three forces sword art, trapping his blade. "Got you." The trap was not for Poyam, but for him. With a flick of his wrist, the old master's blade came apart. It was a whip sword. The segmented steel lashed out, wrapping around Sosum's body and tearing through muscle and bone. "Yeah, that was quite effective," Poyam mocked, his eyes gleaming. "It is your first time facing a whip." He yanked the weapon, throwing Sosum through the air. Sosum crashed into the stone path, his body broken and bleeding. But he was not finished. A blue light flared. Ching dong. Sosum slammed his palm into the ground, unleashing an explosive burst of chi. The force propelled him backward, creating the distance he so desperately needed. Poyam watched him flee, unimpressed. The whip sword danced in the air, its segments multiplying, coalescing. From the storm, a colossal snake of pure blue chi took form, its spectral body wrapping around the entire courtyard, its head looming over Sosum. "Peculiar, truly peculiar," Poyam stated, his voice calm. "You don't hesitate to use your own body as bait." The great snake hissed. "That is not the way of a martial artist. It is the way of an assassin, or a hunter." A cruel smile spread across Poyam's face. "Did you know? In a life-or-death duel, the more you have hidden, the more advantageous you are." He gestured to his own power. "I had more hidden, and you have less. That is your fatal flaw." The snake coiled, gathering power for the final strike. "It seems you have no moves left." Poyam's voice boomed over the thunder, his judgment absolute. "Then, die now, you nameless murderous demon." Poyam's voice boomed over the thunder, his judgment absolute. "Then die now, you nameless murderous demon." The great snake of chi, a torrent of pure destructive energy, lunged forward. It was his ultimate technique, an embodiment of his cruel power, aimed to utterly annihilate the shadow before him. But Sosum did not retreat. With a sharp cry, he stomped his foot upon the rain-slicked stones. The ground shattered, kicking up a blinding cloud of dust and debris. Poyam sneered at the pathetic tactic. "Blocking my vision with dust? It's all futile." The chi serpent tore through the makeshift smokescreen, undeterred. A satisfying impact followed, and Poyam's lips curled into a triumphant grin. He had caught the rat. His blade-like weapon was buried deep in his target. Then, his eyes widened in shock. The face he saw was not the hunter's. It was the lifeless visage of one of his own men, a member of the Black Society. A decoy. A sickening realization dawned as he looked up. The real hunter was above him, poised on the roof. A system window flashed in Sosum's vision. He descended like a hawk, his sword aglow with an ethereal light. The blade sliced through the rain and found its mark, sinking deep into Poyam's chest. Poyam's eyes, wide with disbelief, stared down at the sword protruding from his body. He, the master of the Black Snake Society, had been struck. Blood blossomed on his chest, a testament to his fatal miscalculation. A pain scream, arghhh, tore from Poyam's throat. Sosum's cold eyes analyzed the wound. In that split second, Poyam had instinctively moved his hand to block, saving his heart from instant destruction. But the fight was not over. Poyam roared, "Not yet. It's not over yet." Despite his grievous wound, Poyam's resolve did not break. He lashed out, his serpentine weapon a blur. "Where do you think you're going?" he bellowed. But Sosum had already made his next move, his eyes flashing as a system command appeared. Poyam's fury turned to horror. From thin air, corpses appeared, the bodies of his fallen men. They were drawn into his chi technique, a maelstrom of the dead disrupting his attack. He could only watch as his power was choked by the very men who had served him. Poyam coughed violently, blood spewing from his lips. The sight was incomprehensible, corpses appearing from nothing to block his sword. He looked around at the graveyard he once called his courtyard, a chilling question forming in his mind. Does that mean he still had more things hidden in his sleeve? Rage consumed him. He gritted his teeth, his face a mask of fury. This detestable rat. Where did you run off to? The desecration was too much. To think you'd even use corpses in fights. What a lunatic. An arrow-like projectile shot from the darkness. Stop with these dirty tricks. Poyam roared, swatting it aside. But it was just another distraction. A second projectile struck him, sending a jolt of pain through his battered body as he staggered back. A terrible pressure descended. Sosum's silhouette was bathed in a deep crimson light, his single visible eye glowing with predatory intent. The balance had shifted. Poyam's blood ran cold as the truth settled in his soul. Don't tell me. In this situation, am I the prey? Me, bang Poyam. Desperate, Poyam lunged at a flicker of movement. There you are, he screamed. His weapon plunged forward, only to meet flesh once more. But again, his eyes widened in dawning horror. Wait, that one's also? It was another decoy. Before Poyam could react to the repeated trick, a cold blade entered his back. Sosum had appeared behind him, his strikes silent and final. The sword burst through Poyam's chest, and in his final moments, he was surrounded by the crimson specters of his slaughtered men. Sosum pulled his blade free, and the sect leader collapsed to his knees. Poyam clutched the gushing wound, his life fading with every drop of blood. You fiend, he gasped. So you finally killed every Black Society member in Banya. Just why on earth have you? Do I need a reason? Sosum's voice was devoid of all emotion. Humans have always killed other humans. From when they looked like apes to this very day, even after building civilization. Does this not apply here? He loomed over the dying man, a shadow against the storm. The strong always trample upon and steal from the weak. His blade rested against Poyam's throat. This time, I was simply the strong one. The simple, brutal truth echoed in Poyam's mind as his world faded to black. As the rain washed the blood from the stone courtyard, a pillar of light shot into the sky, unseen by any living soul. The hunt was over. Sosum walked away from the silent manor, his silhouette a lonely figure against the turbulent night. He calmly wiped the blood from his sword, the metal gleaming in the faint moonlight. His internal monologue was cold and clear. With the death of every Black Society member in Banyang, my preparations are complete. Lightning tore across the sky, illuminating a path forward. Now it is time to move to the next stage. His eyes glinted with a mad hunger, where the strong are stronger, and the prey is harder to hunt. Let's go to the Murim's Jianghu. Far from the city, nestled deep within treacherous mountains, a fortress stood against the storm. Inside a grand hall, illuminated by ominous red light, dozens of warriors knelt in perfect silence. At the far end, a single, imposing figure sat enthroned in shadow, his presence commanding absolute authority. A voice, heavy with ancient power, emerged from the throne. How long is it until the Orthodox demonic war? From the kneeling ranks, a single warrior answered. 2 years remain. The figure on the throne considered this. 2 years, HM. It is time to slowly begin the grand plan. The master's voice called out a single name, Guangwon. A man bowed his head low. Yes, sir. The final command was given, its words resonating with dark purpose. Execute the first stratagem. As the command was acknowledged, the gears of a war that would shake the heavens began to turn. A new day dawned on the city of Banya. Sosum, now a nameless hunter cloaked in anonymity, led his horse through the waking streets. The whispers and shadows of the night were behind him, but the resolve forged within them was now his guiding star. The city buzzed with a single topic. In a tavern, men spoke with excitement. Have you heard? The nameless swordsman finally wiped out the Black Snake Society. One man, overflowing with wine and relief, slammed his cup down. We shouldn't just call him Nameless Swordsman. He's the nameless righteous swordsman. But not all shared the jubilant mood. A more thoughtful man, arms crossed, interjected with a quiet concern. I'm not so sure about this. He began, chewing on a toothpick. Even if he is a hero, is it really okay to take lives like that? The first man erupted. Watch your mouth. Think about what those scoundrels have done. He slammed the table, his face contorted with rage, recalling the horrors the black snakes had inflicted upon the common folk. They deserved to die. Another patron chimed in, his voice heavy with the weariness of the powerless. But still, neither the government officials nor the so-called orthodox factions ever cared about us. He took a long drink, his eyes hardening. In the end, the nameless swordsman was the only one who ever stepped up for us. The argument swayed the room. The skeptical man sighed, conceding the point. Who else would stand for them? A single voice of celebration turned into a chorus. Long live the nameless swordsman who drove the black faction out of Banya. The cheers spilled from the tavern into the streets, becoming a city-wide celebration. People danced and shouted, finally free. Amidst the joyous chaos stood Sosum, the object of their praise, his face a mask of indifference as he struggled to control his startled horse. He had accomplished his goal. The Black Snake Society was a memory, and their power was broken. But their cheers meant nothing to him. His hunt was over. It's about time I leave this place as well. Under the light of the full moon, Sosum arrived at a grand, unfamiliar estate. He was about to find a place for the night when a sharp alert rang in his mind. An enemy with a level difference of 10 or more was within 20 meters. Danger! His senses flared, his spirit eye-activating. It wasn't pointing at the main building, but somewhere else, the stable. Trusting the instinct that had kept him alive, he led his horse toward the wooden doors, stepping from the moonlight into the darkness within. Inside, two men stood in quiet conference, their auras radiating immense power. Sosum's eyes widened. He recognized one as G.I. Daehyo, leader of the Black Crow unit. The other was an old man of terrifying presence, the head of the Damri clan, the flying heavenly demon sword himself, Damri Chanwo. The pressure from their combined chi was immense. Sosum immediately dropped to the ground, playing the part of a terrified, lowly stable hand. Why were such monumental figures meeting here? As Damri Chanwo gently stroked his horse, Sosum watched from the floor, his crimson eyes gleaming with predatory curiosity. Their conversation was one of politics and power. On the coming full moon, the second daughter of the Namgung clan head is getting married, Chanwo stated. Daehyo was shocked. Are you sure about sending your cherished horse as a gift? He asked, bewildered by the patriarch's decision. A calculating look crossed Chanwo's face. Of course, if I can send one of my children to the Namgung clan, I would do even more than this. He spoke in metaphors of bridges and logs, his true ambition clear. This gift was merely a tool to forge a powerful alliance. But Daehyo saw the flaw. The Namgung clan might not want either of them. Chanwo laughed, a cold and decisive sound. Isn't that why I called you here? He gripped Daehyo's shoulder, a torrent of blue chi flowing into him. Make it happen, no matter what. Daehyo bowed, accepting the heavy command. Understood. As the patriarch turned to leave, he added a final instruction, gesturing dismissively toward the prostrated Sosum. When you leave for the Namgung family, take this one with you. He is needed to handle the horse. Daehyo acknowledged the order. Yes, patriarch. Once Damri Chanwo was gone, Sosum slowly rose, still feigning fear. Daehyo turned, his gaze sharp and suspicious, silently assessing the stable hand his master had just thrust upon him. The game of infiltration had begun. The next morning, The Danri clan's Black Crow unit assembled in the courtyard. Standing apart with his horse, Sosum contemplated his path forward. A crucial question burned in his mind. What must I do to learn proper martial arts, and not just skills? He reflected on his methods. He had mimicked the movements of warriors and assassins, even the great snake technique of Bang Pion. But his fist clenched in frustration. It was all hollow, nothing more or less than mere imitation without a true foundation. He knew the paths to power. Learning from a dusty manual was the worst option, prone to chi deviation. The best option was direct tutelage from a master. He considered his circumstances. I've reached the age of 18. It's not easy to learn martial arts at this age. Yet, as he looked upon the assembled might of the Danri clan, a slow smile spread across his face. The situation actually worked out well. He was being delivered to the doorstep of the Namgung clan, one of the 5 great clans. Surely, there he would find a way and stronger prey. G.I. Daehyo surveyed his assembled troops. The entire Black Crow unit has finished assembling. Good, the horse is out too. He scanned the ranks again. Who hasn't arrived yet? A subordinate answered. Everyone has gathered except for the young master and the young lady. Daehyo clicked his tongue, his patience wearing thin. Danri Ganghai is probably at some tavern, and Danri Hui hates traveling with us. Not willing to wait for the patriarch's spoiled children, he gave the order. Move out. The procession marched out of the estate, but they didn't get far. Everyone halt. Daehyo commanded, raising a hand. A loud crash echoed from a nearby building. He slapped his forehead in exasperation. Again. His frustration was directed at Danri Ganghai. The eldest son of the patriarch was a true martial prodigy, with talent enough to enter the Namgung clan. The problem, however, was his character. He was frivolous, a womanizer, and a drunk, and trouble followed him like a shadow. TSK, beating someone up again. Daehyo muttered. Just then, a building wall exploded outward. A man, wrapped in crackling green energy, was blasted into the street. Young Master Danri, his men screamed, as the victim collapsed into the rubble. Amidst the chaos, Sosum felt a familiar sensation. His spirit eye pulsed, and the system delivered its warning. Another powerful enemy had appeared. The hunter inside him stirred, intrigued by this new display of power. The defeated man staggered to his feet, pointing a trembling finger. Darn it! You fiend! I'm gonna key. A blinding flash of green light cut him off, silencing him for good. Daehyo watched in horror, but Sosum's lips curled into a vicious grin. Sosum's red eye reflected the scene, his mind racing. It was a master. Standing over the body was an old man with wild, spiky hair, his body crackling with an aura of pure, unadulterated power. This was not the sloppy technique of a thug. This was one of overwhelming skill. A flash of verdant light erupted. It was not a strike, but an impact. The man known as Young Master Danri was thrown back, his body smashing into a stone wall with a sickening crunch. His guardian, Daehyo, cried out in shock and horror. The arrogant youth, a moment ago so full of bluster, now hung limply, embedded in the very structure he had sought shelter in. Amidst the chaos, Sosum remained an island of calm. He held the reins of his horse, his expression unreadable. But within, his spirit eye pulsed with a familiar warning. A system notification confirmed his senses. A powerful foe, a true master, had entered the field. Danri, coughing up blood, managed one last defiant shout. You wretched fiend. I'm gonna key. His words were choked off. Another burst of green light silenced him permanently. As Daehyo watched his young master fall, Sosum's lips curled into a predatory grin. This was becoming interesting. Sosum's crimson eye analyzed the scene. This was no mere thug. The newcomer was a master. An old man with wild, spiky hair stood over the corpse, his body crackling with a venomous green aura. This was not the sloppy technique of a back alley brawler. It was the refined, deadly art of a martial artist with overwhelming skill. The old man's power billowed around him like a toxic storm. As he stood over his victim, a furious shout pierced the air. Halt! Daehyo charged forward, his face a mask of grief and rage. The old master turned slowly, his gaze like chips of jade. Who are you? He demanded, his voice laced with annoyance. Daehyo did not flinch. I am Gi Daehyo, head of the Danri clan's Black Crow unit. He gestured to the fallen youth. The person you are currently tormenting is the young master of the Danri clan. Drawing his blade, he issued a final, desperate ultimatum. If you do not remove your foot this instant, I will not stand idle. A cold dread settled over the Black Crow unit. One of Daehyo's subordinates trembled, a horrifying realization dawning on him. Their leader, who knew every notable warrior in the Anhui province, did not recognize this man. He was an outsider, an unfathomable master. So some watched from the periphery as the soldier concluded their fate. With their current numbers, they could never defeat him. The old man's eyes, swirling vortexes of green chi, glinted with amusement. He felt no threat from these men. A single thought echoed in his mind, a core tenet of the powerful. A lion does not pounce with its full strength just to kill a bug. To him, they were nothing more than insects buzzing at his feet. With insolent leisure, the old master picked his ear. Danri clan? What is that? He drawled, looking down at the corpse under his boot. Is it something to eat? The flagrant disrespect was a spark in a powder keg. Daehyo's face contorted with rage, his honor and the honor of his clan trampled into the dust. A cruel, vicious smile spread across the old man's face. Well, I truly do not know if the Danri clan is something to eat or something to step on. With a surge of green energy, he ground his heel down, crushing what little remained of the young master's pride. Daehyo gritted his teeth, the sound lost in the charged air. Honor demanded a response, even in the face of certain death. All members of the Black Crow unit, Daehyo roared, his voice cracking with desperation. Save the young master. With a unified battle cry, he and his men surged forward. It was a wave of loyal soldiers crashing against a mountain of absolute power. The old master simply raised a hand. He gathered his virulent chi into a condensed sphere of malice and unleashed it. A wave of poison energy erupted outwards, striking the charging unit with overwhelming force. Blades were torn from grips and bodies were sent flying as the toxic tide washed over them. Daehyo and his men collapsed, their bodies convulsing as the poison coursed through their veins. The ground became a writhing tapestry of agony. Looking up from the dirt, his vision blurring, a name, a legend, surfaced in Daehyo's mind. Don't tell me this is... It can't be, are you? Oh ho, the old master chuckled, his voice dripping with condescension. For a country laborer, your eyes haven't completely rotted away. He stood tall, basking in their terror and suffering as he made his grand declaration. This old man is none other than the soul-chasing poison hand, Tang Wu. The name echoed with the weight of legend. In the martial world, the strong are categorized into a strict hierarchy. At the top sit the two gods, followed by the three monsters and the five pinnacles. Below them are the 10 greats. Tang Wu was counted among these 20 legendary masters, a pinnacle of power few could ever hope to challenge. The moniker was earned in blood and fear. For those who offend Tang Wu, even after death, their very spirits cannot escape his poison hands. Sosum, observing the field of paralyzed warriors, processed the information. The young fool had picked a fight with one of the 20 strongest people in all of Murim. Sosum's mind calculated the new variables. This was no longer a simple matter of clan squabbles. The scoundrel of the Danri clan had caused a massive international incident. By offending a master of Tang Wu's stature, the entire clan could be forced to close its gates, erased from the map for the folly of one arrogant youth. From a nearby doorway, a woman in a stylish green dress emerged. "Grandpa," she called out, her tone bored. "Let's just go. They're country folk who don't know any better." Tang Wu considered her words, then a wide, mischievous grin split his face. "Ho-ho, shall we?" The woman, Hua, felt the display was sufficient to teach them how vast the world is. Tang Wu, however, couldn't resist a final jab. He chastised the unconscious young master for causing a scene so early in the morning and gave Daehyo a parting message. "Tell that boy that if he keeps hitting on random women, he won't live out his natural lifespan. Do you understand?" Barely able to move, Daehyo choked out his gratitude. "Thank you for your mercy, Senior Tang." With a dismissive click of his tongue, Tang Wu flicked his fingers. The green, toxic aura receded from the fallen soldiers, and he released his chi. The poison was neutralized, but the lesson was not forgotten. As he turned to depart, Tang Wu began. "Wah, let's G." He stopped. A sudden jolt of awareness, a prickle of immense energy he had somehow overlooked, froze him in his tracks. His eyes, swirling pools of green, widened as he scanned the courtyard and locked onto a new target. His gaze passed over the groaning, defeated warriors of the Danri clan until it found him. Sosum, standing alone, untouched, holding his horse as if he were merely a spectator to a street play. Sensed the shift. Grandpa. But Tang Wu was already moving, walking a straight path through the fallen bodies, his purpose now singular. Sosum felt the weight of the master's stare. He's coming towards me, he thought, a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. Why? The legendary poison master came to a halt directly in front of the nameless hunter. The world seemed to hold its breath as two distinct, yet equally terrifying, auras met. Grandpa, what is going on? Why asked, confused. Tang Wu paid her no mind. It is nothing special, he said, his eyes never leaving Sosum. I just have something to ask this child. A long moment passed. What is your name? Sosum remained silent. Tang Wu's patience vanished, his killing intent surging forth like a physical force. I asked you what your name was. Amidst the fallen, two figures stood in stark contrast. The legendary poison master, Tang Wu, faced the nameless hunter, Sosum. His granddaughter, Hua, watched in confusion. Grandpa, what is going on? But the old master's eyes never left the boy. It is nothing special, he rasped, his voice a low growl. I just have something to ask this child. Sosum's eyes widened. He has business directly with me? The weight of the master's gaze was immense, a physical pressure. Then, the simple question came, loaded with unspoken meaning. What is your name? Silence was Sosum's only answer. The air turned frigid. Tang Wu's patience snapped. A torrent of green killing intent erupted from his body, flooding the courtyard with oppressive power. I asked you what your name was. Their eyes met in a clash of wills, one pair wide with shock, the other spiraling with green, venomous rage. The old master's thoughts simmered with fury at the boy's apparent defiance. This brat dared to ignore him? The Danri clan elder, Daehyo, rushed to intervene. That fellow is a horse handler, but he cannot speak, he explained hastily. Tang Wu's gaze shifted. He's a mute. The torrent of chi receded, replaced by a flicker of intense, calculating curiosity. A realization struck Sosum like lightning. He saw it in the master's eyes. It wasn't just anger. He was being evaluated. The gaze was not one of disdain, but of a collector who had just found an unpolished, priceless gem. Sosum understood. A master of Tang Wu's caliber saw him as a treasure. This was not a moment of danger. This was an opportunity, a chance for power beyond his wildest imagination. A dark fire lit in Sosum's eyes. This was the moment for Sosum the horse handler to become something more. Seeing the shift in the boy, Tang Wu's stern mask shattered into a wide, manic grin. The oppressive aura vanished completely, replaced by pure, unadulterated excitement. Tang Wu turned back to the trembling Daehyo. His demeanor completely changed. He inquired about their journey to the Namgung clan for a marriage alliance. The question was casual, but the underlying intent was sharp as a needle. Daehyo confirmed their purpose, explaining Sosum was the handler for the Fergana horse, a precious gift. Then it should be fine if I take him, right? Tang Wu declared. Daehyo paled. What? No. Without him, no one can control that horse. Tang Wu waved a dismissive hand. We just need to transport the horse to the Namgung clan. After we arrive, I will take the child. He offered to speak to the Namgung head himself, even provide payment to the Danri clan. It was not a negotiation, it was a statement of fact. Cornered by a living legend, Daehyo sweated profusely. He finally broke. We intended on presenting him to the Namgung clan head along with the horse regardless. He bowed his head in defeat. Please take him, Senior Tang. A booming laugh of triumph echoed into the sky. The matter was settled. What are you doing? Hurry up and follow. Tang Wu barked at Sosum. A frustrated Daehyo ordered his men to regroup, watching as the strange boy was led away by the poison master. A predatory grin spread across Tang Wu's face. He had claimed his prize. Night fell, and under a full moon, the procession arrived at a large inn. The Danri clan elder declared they would stay there for the night. Sosum, now a peculiar appendage to the group, stood silently with his horse. While the warriors settled in the main hall, Sosum was given the quiet solitude of the stables. In the pale moonlight, he sat and began to meditate. His crimson spirit eye glowed as he turned his focus inward, assessing his own power. His battle with the Black Snake sect had forced his growth. His control over the inventory system had improved significantly. He could now summon it within a meter's radius. He wondered, if I practice, could it increase further? He reviewed his skills. He could retrieve swords, or even corpses, firing them out like projectiles from the subspace. However, the shooting speed isn't very fast. A true master would have no trouble reacting. He needed an edge. He commanded, inventory. A stream of sand materialized, which he then condensed into a glowing mote of energy in his palm. He clenched his fist, a sliver of pride on his face. I've gotten quite skilled at this too. Then, a deeper understanding bloomed in his mind. There is one more way. Anything that entered his body could be instantly transferred to the inventory. A wicked smile spread across his face. This wasn't just storage. It was a divine art. A sharp knock broke his concentration. Hua entered the stable, sighing. Grandpa, seriously, why he wants me to bring someone like you over at this hour is beyond me. She gestured impatiently. Please follow along. Hua led Sosum to a private chamber. I'm coming in. Inside, Tang Wu knelt before a magnificent screen bearing a golden dragon. The air was heavy with anticipation. The old master's voice was firm. Go up to the platform and sit cross-legged. Sosum walked past Hua and her grandfather, his expression unreadable. He took his place on the raised platform, assuming the meditative posture. Tang Wu watched him, then gave his next command, strip. Sosum complied. Good. The master's eyes glinted with approval. Your bodily structure isn't bad either. He then produced an ornate golden case, laying it on the floor. Hua gasped in horror. Dragon Phoenix golden needles. Don't tell me you're... Tang Wu ignored her, his attention fixed on Sosum. Do you know the saying, Gyowaweji? He asked. An orange grown in the south turns into a bitter orange when planted in the north. The metaphor was clear. He intended to replant Sosum and transform him utterly. I intend to perform a great ritual on you, he stated. It will be extremely painful, but if you endure and survive, I will give you something beyond that. A brilliant aura flared around him. I will also cure your muteness. Will you do it? Gee, Grandpa, Hua cried, rushing to his side. To decide such a grave matter without the consent of the elders. Her pleas were like wind against a mountain. In that room, only two beings mattered, the master making the offer and the hunter about to accept. Sosum's spirit eye glowed crimson. So that's what it was. He understood everything. The intense scrutiny, the test of will, the sudden claim. It was all a prelude to this moment, an invitation to power. Tang Wu's gaze hardened. Then, he lifted a single, gleaming golden needle, its tip radiating an ancient power. His voice boomed, filled with the weight of his legendary clan. Child, are you ready to receive the surname of the Tang clan? A fierce, knowing smile finally broke across Sosum's face. He was ready. In the Murim, there are many names for genius. Heavenly Meridian Body, wheel-turning Sacred Emperor aspect. These are talents seen once in a century, once in a millennium. They are destinies written in the stars, enough to etch a name into history itself. But among these heavenly gifts, the greatest aptitude is different. It is not granted by the heavens. For Sosum, it was something he simply picked up for free. A talent of 10 years? 100? 1,000? Sosum scoffed at the idea. But Tang Wu saw the truth. This was not a generational talent. This was a body seen for the first time since the Murim began, a body of no meridians. At first, Tang Wu saw only an ordinary boy, a vessel that had never learned martial arts. But his senses pierced deeper. The boy's body was a void. It lacked the acupoints, the pathways, the very foundation of a human martial artist. There was nothing. Yet, a chilling thought took root in the master's mind. To have no path meant that any path could be forged. A blank canvas for absolute creation. He trembled with excitement. With this boy, he could restore the 10,000 flower rain, a technique lost to ages. The entire Murim would bow before the Tang clan. The future, his legacy, was within his grasp. He held the golden needle, its power resonating with his own ambition. The future of the Tang family was in his hands. I will ask again. Tang Wu's voice was a command. Do you intend to accept the surname of the Tang family? Sosum sat before him, a blank vessel. His crimson eye opened. A simple, silent nod was his only answer. The master clarified the terms. This is not yet complete. The path was fraught with peril. You must go to the Tang family and prove you are worthy. Tang Wu's gaze was stone. You may die in the process. Will you still do it? Sosum's eyes widened, alight with fire. Challenge accepted. A cruel smile spread across Tang Wu's face. I will now perform the great reformation ritual on you. Green energy erupted from his form. Waya, stand guard. With a heavy heart, she turned and sealed the doors, leaving the two alone with fate. Ethereal green needles materialized, circling Sosum like captured fireflies. Tang Wu hovered above, a god remaking his creation. He gathered his chi, the very air humming with power. I shall begin. The golden needle descended, a sliver of fate. It hovered over the boy's crown, a focal point of immense power. With absolute precision, it pierced his flesh. The ritual had truly started. They thought I couldn't hear them. Sosum mused internally. But the hunter misses nothing. A skill for tracking prey, lip reading, had served a new purpose. Body of no meridians? How could I have something like that? A dark smile played on his hidden thoughts. His reality was a secret only he could see. A status window, a system governing his growth. He was not a blank slate. He was a being neither human nor character, a paradox of existence. Tang Wu, unable to perceive this truth, had concocted a convenient fantasy. In that case, the hunter's mind calculated the odds. This grand illusion was a gift, an opportunity not to be wasted. I just need to act the part. The master worked with feverish intensity, his needles turning Sosum's back into a map of stars. A body that will never be seen again, he marveled. He had created temporary acupoints, yet the boy's chi and blood flowed without blockage. In fact, it surged faster than any martial artist he had ever known. Sweat beaded on Tang Wu's brow. It was undeniable, truly a talent of the ages. But such a treasure required insurance. He produced a small wooden box. Inside, nestled amongst dried herbs, a venomous centipede stirred. That is why I must be even more cautious. This was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a treasure he could not allow to fall into other hands. He lifted the writhing creature, its purpose sinister and absolute. This was no blessing. It was a heart-guarding insect, a poison to ensure loyalty. It would lie dormant, a secret chain bound to Sosum's soul. Tang Wu's eyes glowed with possessive madness. If I cannot have him, no one will. Throughout the long night, the master's hands moved with practiced grace, placing each needle. His chi molded the boy's new reality. As dawn broke, casting long shadows across the pavilion, the arduous process finally concluded. The ritual is over. Tang Wu stood over the boy, whose back was now bare. From now on, you are not the Danri family's horse handler. His voice was filled with triumph. You are a member of the Tang clan, the greatest family in Sichuan. Your name? Yes. The master chose the words carefully. I shall name you Tang Sam. The boy, hunched on the floor, exhausted but alive, uttered a single word. Yes. Wall waited anxiously outside the doors. They creaked open, revealing a transformed figure. The boy who went in was gone. In his place stood a young man, bearing the quiet confidence and attire of the Tang clan. He walked into the morning light, a new man in a new world. He extended his palm, and a blue light flared. The heart-guarding insect, the master's secret chain, coiled obediently in his hand. A brutal, knowing grin split his face. The leash had become another weapon. The mute Sosum of the Danri family was no more. That identity was shed, left behind in blood and shadow. In his place stood Tang Sam of the Sichuan Tang family. This name, this clan, this would be his new pair of wings. Under the light of a colossal moon, the grand estate was deceptively peaceful. Its intricate architecture held secrets, its lanterns casting long shadows. But within a moonlit chamber, muffled cries of struggle broke the silence, a prelude to violence. A man's hand clamped over a woman's mouth, silencing her pleas. Her body trembled, sweat beading on her skin as she fought in vain. The man, a predator with cold, vacant eyes, took what he wanted, his expression unchanging, his cruelty absolute. From the ceiling above, a figure dropped, silent as falling ash. Clad in black from head to toe, he landed without a sound. An assassin had breached the inner sanctum, his purpose as dark as his attire. The woman's eyes went wide, but her terror was for the newcomer. With blinding speed, the assassin lunged. There was no hesitation, only a brutal kick that sent the silver-haired man flying across the room with a sickening impact. The man, Pega Hyol, staggered to his feet, a mask of fury on his face. This can't be. His rage, however, was not for the attack. Blood got on my silk robes from the west. Do you have any idea how expensive this is? His vanity wounded more than his body. He glared at the intruder, his fists clenched. Hey, just who in the world are you? The assassin merely stood, his sword held ready, his eyes glowing with an unholy light, promising only death. Without a word, the assassin moved, his blade unleashing a torrent of dark energy. Pega Hyol was forced to react, his leisure shattered. He lunged for a decorative sword rack, his own power flaring to life as he met the shadowy assault. An explosion of violet chi rocked the room as their techniques collided. Pega Hyol was thrown back by the sheer force, his eyes wide with shock. What in the heavens? The assassin's voice was a guttural sneer, filled with utter disdain. You are pathetically weak. The assassin pressed his overwhelming advantage, his blade a blur of motion. Pega Hyol was sent reeling, but he was no simple warrior. He deflected the storm of strikes, his own purple aura flaring as he launched a furious counterattack, meeting the shadow head-on. Pega Hyol's eyes widened in recognition. That art, a technique unique to their hidden order. Ichem, don't tell me that's. The dark aura around the assassin intensified, confirming his identity. This was no stranger, this was one of his own. The tension shattered with a manic, echoing laugh. Ha. Right, you're definitely Mad Cloud. Pega Hyol's entire demeanor shifted, his anger replaced by a twisted amusement. So, what brings the 18th Cloud all the way here in person? The assassin, Guangwun, spoke, his voice flat. Orders have come down, Ash Shadow. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. The first stratagem. At this, a monstrous, ecstatic grin spread across Ash Shadow's face. The wait was finally over. We're finally doing it, Ash Shadow breathed, leaning forward with predatory glee. What about Shifting Shadow? Guangwun revealed the heart of the plan. The Namgung clan. The 15th of this month is Shifting Shadow's wedding day. Wedding? Ash Shadow was taken aback, a detail he hadn't anticipated. The implication sent a shock through him. Don't tell me, Shifting Shadow is... Then, the scope. Guangwun's fingers tapped a grim rhythm. The order was absolute, its cruelty breathtaking. Everyone except Shifting Shadow and Namgung Hai. An entire clan was to be extinguished, annihilated at a celebration of life. Ash Shadow weighed the opposition. The soul-chasing poison hand will arrive in Anhui soon. Our forces here won't be enough. Guangwun's reply was swift and decisive. Then 5 shadows will go. A satisfied, demonic smile crept back onto Ash Shadow's face. Really now? That should be enough. I have delivered the orders, Guangwun stated, his form already dissipating. By the way, Ash Shadow called out, what was Shifting Shadow's name again? But the assassin was gone. Ah, he's as unlikable as ever. Alone once more, Pega Hyol seethed with a bitter jealousy. Ah, so jealous. He had believed all shadows were doomed to a life of solitude. But Shifting Shadow became a hero of the Orthodox faction and even got the first beauty of Anhui as a bride, while I'm rotting away in this gloomy place. He strode to the balcony and summoned an underling with a flick of his fingers. His voice was ice. Clean the room. Get rid of the filth on the bed, too. He paused, adding the final, chilling command. And kill all the guards who are on duty today. The servant bowed low. Yes, branch leader. He stood there, a predator overlooking his domain. Pega Hyol, the naked silver demon. As branch leader of the heavenly demon divine cult's Anhui branch, he gazed upon the city lights, a hunting ground waiting for his command. He was Ash Shadow, a phantom of the cult, waiting for the signal. A cruel, knowing smile spread across his face as he looked out upon the night. Now it really begins. The pieces were moving on a board much larger than this city. Far away, under the same moon, an army marched. Hundreds of disciplined warriors moved as one. Their destination, the glittering city of Anhui. They were a righteous force, unaware of the darkness gathering to meet them. At the head of the column, Tang Wu reined in his horse, his new grandson beside him. Whoa, we arrived sooner than expected. He surveyed the sprawling city. the place where the Namgung clan reigns as masters. Onhue. And as the master spoke, Tang Sam's eyes stared forward, a silent hunter arriving at new killing grounds. Onhue, the domain of the Namgung clan. Lanterns floated like prayers into the heavens, painting the sky with light. Below, the streets pulsed with life, a festival celebrating a grand wedding. The clan's opulent estate stood as a testament to their power, a mountain of wood and tile watching over its realm. But even in this land of prosperity, shadows clung to the light. At the foot of the magnificent gates, beggars prostrated themselves, their bodies frail. They pleaded for a mere lump of rice. Their desperation was a jarring note in the symphony of celebration. The gatekeeper's face twisted in disgust. This was a place of power, not pity. With a brutal kick, he sent the beggars sprawling. A cry of pain was met only with contempt, an ugly reminder that compassion was a luxury not afforded to all. Suddenly, a voice cut through the commotion. From the gilded doors emerged a young man. His robes were pristine, his bearing noble. An aura of calm authority radiated from him, instantly silencing the guard's cruelty. The guard stumbled over his words, bowing to the young master. Whispers erupted from the crowd. It was him, Du Hyo-ok, the star of the banquet. Tall, handsome, and the future son-in-law of the great Namgung clan. Du Hyo-ok strode past the fawning guard, his eyes settling on the fallen beggar. He crouched, his expression one of gentle concern. He offered a hand, a stark contrast to the guard's violence, a perfect picture of a righteous hero. He ordered the guard to share some of the banquet's food. His words were soft, but carried unquestionable authority. The guard, though reluctant, could only obey. With his act of kindness performed, Du Hyo-ok turned and entered the estate. The onlookers sighed in admiration. Such character, such martial prowess. They spoke of his legend, a lone wanderer who defeated the Inyong twin demons, terrors who had plagued the Jianghu for decades. His victory had earned him this grand marriage. One man spoke of his fabled techniques, inherited from the Thunderblade Emperor himself. But he was cut short as a figure shoved past him. A gasp of terror rippled through the crowd. The legendary soul-chasing poison hand, Tang Wu, had arrived. Tang Wu pushed the man aside with utter disdain. "Move, you're in the way." He strode forward, his entourage in tow, parting the sea of onlookers. He and his grandson, Tang Sam, moved with a purpose that defied the festive air. The crowd's murmuring fell under his venomous glare. He roared, his killing intent washing over them like a physical blow. "Are you saying I've come to a place I shouldn't have?" His voice was a threat, daring anyone to speak against him. Du Hyo-ok stepped forward, attempting to placate the fearsome master. "Please calm down, Sir Tang," he said, bowing politely. "I am Du Hyo-ok." Tang Wu's eyes narrowed, sizing up the young prodigy. So this was the man who had brought him all this way. After a moment of scrutiny, Tang Wu scoffed. "Excellent, excellent. But that is all." The praise was hollow, laced with profound disappointment. He brushed past the young master, asking only for the clan head, and marched towards the main hall, leaving Du Hyo-ok utterly dismissed. Du Hyo-ok, stunned, scrambled to guide the great master. But Tang Wu paid him no mind. As the drama unfolded, Tang Sam stood silent. He was an observer, yet his eyes, wide and unblinking, saw more than anyone else. A blue screen shimmered in his vision. A warning. An enemy with a level difference of more than 10 was within 20 meters. Tang Wu's power was immense, but Tang Sam detected a subtle gap between his aura and the system's alert. The warning wasn't for his grandfather. His gaze snapped to Du Hyo-ok. The man's movements were flawless. His gait was perfectly steady, without the natural asymmetry found in every human. Limb length, shoulder height, it was all too symmetrical. It was unnatural. A chilling realization struck Tang Sam. This man was perfect. Too perfect. He saw through the disguise. This was not a human hero. This was a predator of the same species, hiding its true nature in a different form. They reached the king's hall, its roof adorned with the swords of past Namgung clan heads. Du Hyo-ok proudly explained the monument to their lineage. Tang Wu, Tang Sam, and Hua stood before the grand steps, unimpressed. Tang Wu sneered at the display. TSK, calling themselves kings. To him, it was empty vanity. In the end, he mused, they all end up sleeping in a grave anyway. Such titles meant nothing. Du Hyo-ok offered to announce them, but Tang Wu waved him off. Forget it. He began climbing the stairs without ceremony. Didn't you say he's been waiting anyway? His impatience was a force of nature. He threw open the doors, his presence filling the hall. The esteemed head of the Namgung clan rushed forward, his face lit with a warm smile. Uncle, welcome. It has been truly a long time. Humph, look at the wretched sight of a clan head running around without dignity, Tang Wu grumbled. But his gruff words quickly gave way to a hearty laugh. The two old masters embraced, their bond clearly deeper than mere politics. Tang Hua watched in shock. She never knew her grandfather was so close to the famous Namgung clan head. Just then, a young woman with ornate hairpins greeted her. It's been a while, Hua. It was Hai, the bride-to-be. Hua complimented her beauty, and they reconnected. Du Hyo-ok took the opportunity to reintroduce himself to Hua, who slyly asked, "May I call you brother-in-law?" Hai flushed bright red at her friend's teasing, while Du Hyo-ok laughed heartily. Brother-in-law? Sounds good. The room filled with light-hearted banter, a stark contrast to the tension of moments before. After a moment, Hai's eyes drifted to the silent figure standing apart from the group. Wah, by the way, who is that person? The question fell into the quiet space around him. Before Wah could answer, he spoke himself. I am Tang Sam. Du Hyo-ok's friendly smile never wavered. He stepped forward, extending a hand. Tang Sam, nice to meet you. As their hands met, a predatory grin bloomed on Tang Sam's face. Two hunters, recognizing each other in a room full of prey. Du Hyo-ok announced his plans for a night outing on Soho Lake with Hai. Then, turning to the others, he offered an invitation. How about we go together? Of course, including you as well, Tang Sam. It was not a request. It was the opening move in a game only they understood. Under the full moon, the party arrived at the shores of Soho Lake. The water shimmered, reflecting the city lights and countless floating lanterns. It's beautiful. Hai breathed, mesmerized by the tranquil scenery. But beneath the surface beauty, attention coiled, unseen. Du Hyo-ok, ever the charming host, laughed. Soho Lake is famous for its breathtaking views. He gestured across the water, his smile unwavering. The night view is especially stunning. The reflection of the moon danced on the lake, a perfect mirror for the heavens. But Tang Sam's spirit, I saw only the ripples of coming conflict. While the ladies are talking among themselves, Du Hyo-ok proposed, why don't we men share a drink? His true motive was to isolate his target. With a sly smile, he turned to leave. I'll go fetch some good wine. Tang Sam watched him go, his own senses flaring. On the surface, he's the man who will become the son-in-law of the Namgung clan. But his inner sight revealed the truth. Du Hyo-ok's chi was coiled and hungry. He is definitely a predator in disguise. The gears in Tang Sam's mind turned furiously. A person of that caliber could surely plot something quite substantial. A cold unease washed over him as he stared at the glittering water. I feel like I've unwittingly been caught in a massive, unseen scheme. Suddenly, a warning blazed in his vision. An enemy over 10 levels higher than you has approached within 20 meters. His eyes widened in shock. The system was never wrong. It's not. Du Hyo-ok. He quickly assessed his surroundings. The ship was about 25 meters long. The height, 5 meters. The alert had triggered a new variable. His gaze dropped down. Then the enemy is on the lower deck. Du Hyo-ok returned, holding a jug of wine, his apologies smooth and practiced. But Tang Sam's crimson eyes saw through the facade. His focus wasn't on the returning predator. A new enemy, powerful and unknown, had just entered the game. Du Hyo-ok offered him a special wine, another subtle test of dominance. Tang Sam countered with his own deception. My stomach hasn't been feeling well, he said, feigning discomfort. Of course, Du Hyo-ok replied, his eyes betraying nothing as he watched Tang Sam walk away. Tang Sam descended into the dark belly of the ship. Each step was deliberate, his senses on high alert. The system alert flared again, the proximity counter ticking down relentlessly. 14, 13, 12, 11. His movement had created distance, but now the threat was closing in again. He stalked the shadows, his presence completely erased. The numbers fell faster. 3, 2, 1, he stopped. The enemy was here. His mind raced, a hunter counting his rivals. 1, 2, 3, 4. Including Do Hyo okay, that's 5. A cold realization washed over him. There are currently 5 enemies on this ship who are over 10 levels higher than me. Returning to the deck, the pieces of the puzzle began to shift. If their goal was something like kidnapping Namgung Hai, they would have done it already. Their patience indicated a much grander design. This was no simple snatch and grab. He looked out towards the sprawling Namgung clan estate, illuminated by the moon. The truth struck him with the force of a physical blow. Their ambition was far greater. It's highly likely their target is the Namgung clan itself. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. For masters, each with a power level far exceeding his own, had infiltrated the clan's territory. He knew what that kind of force signified. It was a declaration of war. He was trapped. By his side stood the specter of Tang Wu, his new master. Ahead lay the enemies of the Namgung clan. A wide, savage grin split his face, his red eyes glowing. It's truly a dilemma. Meanwhile, at a dark waterway checkpoint, a Namgung guard complained to his leader. Squad leader Go Sangong, do we really have to do this? The task of patrolling the waterway seemed pointless and excessive. Go Sangong's face twisted in rage. Hey, you insolent fool, he snarled, grabbing his subordinate by the collar. Are you talking back to me? He slammed the man to the ground for questioning orders. Another guard's attempt to intervene was swiftly cut short. What did you just say? Go Sangong growled. Grumbling about their laziness, he forced the 2 guards to take a lantern and proceed into the dark, wet passage. Alone now, Go Sangong crossed his arms, lost in thought. A true man should be on the battlefield, he mused, sighing at the tedium of his post. If only some enemies showed up, it would be a lot less boring. Deep within the stone tunnel, the guards moved cautiously. One complained about their misfortune, turning to his companion. What do you think, youngest? But his words were cut short by the horror reflected in the candlelight. In a flash of motion too quick to see, the candle was extinguished. A choked cry was swallowed by the darkness. A single word pierced the silence from the other guard. Enemies. The squad leader, still outside, witnessed a brief, brutal ballet of death in the darkness. The clash of steel, a spray of red, and the sickening splash of bodies hitting the water. It was over in an instant. From the passage, a lone figure emerged, their blade dripping crimson. A final, merciless strike silenced the last witness. The sword fell from a dead man's hand, clattering against the stone floor. Absolute silence descended once more. Go Sangong let out a massive yawn. They're taking too long, he grumbled, his patience wearing thin. Annoyance grew into suspicion. Are those punks slacking off again? Muttering curses, he grabbed a torch and marched into the waterway. The flickering light cast an orange glow on the murky water. His eyes widened. Floating before him was a severed arm, its hand still gripping a blood-stained sword. A strangled cry escaped his lips. Why is an arm dash? Panic seized him. He stumbled backward, screaming the names of his missing men into the suffocating darkness. Youngest, Dacho. He ran deeper, his torch cutting a panicked swathe through the gloom. He came upon a scene of absolute butchery. Dismembered bodies, floating in a pool of blood. Where was that one arm? He stammered, trying to comprehend the gore. He saw his men, not just killed, but displayed. A grotesque art installation of death. And sitting calmly in the center of the carnage was a figure, Tang Sam, who looked from the severed arm to the terrified guard, his expression chillingly neutral. Oh, Tang Sam thought, a flicker of satisfaction in his dead eyes. I was just missing an arm. In a dark, waterlogged passage, the hunt began. Tang Sam surged forward, his feet barely touching the rippling surface. A figure erupted from the shadows, blade first. The clash was instantaneous, a spray of water and a shriek of steel that echoed through the stone corridor. Their eyes met, one filled with grim duty, the other with crimson, predatory light. Their swords locked, chi flaring between them. The Namgung warrior felt a shocking force travel up his arm. This brat, he thought, gritting his teeth. He's stronger than I expected. With a furious roar, the warrior drove Tang Sam back. His sword, glowing with an azure aura, carved through the air. The water churned violently as they disengaged, each man a coiled spring of lethal intent, ready for the next deadly exchange. The warrior's eyes narrowed in recognition. You're the one who came with the soul-hunting poisonous palm, he snarled. You came as a guest. Why are you doing this? Tang Sam's face was a mask of cold indifference, his voice an empty whisper. It's for the sake of the Namgung clan. The absurd answer ignited the warrior's fury. Nonsense. You slaughtered our people. He gathered his chi, vowing a painful end. He unleashed his clan's signature art, the Heavenly Wind sword technique. But Tang Sam was ready, his own crimson aura exploding as he activated the Three Powers sword technique. Blue light met red. Flowing heavenly clouds crashed against the direct strike at the yellow dragon. The collision of techniques was immense. A concussive blast threw them apart, water erupting towards the ceiling in a violent storm of raw power. Driven by rage, the warrior screamed, "I'll rip you to pieces." He pressed forward, his blade a blur of cyan light. Tang Sam met him blow for blow, the narrow corridor filled with the clang of a dozen strikes per second. Blood began to mist the air, staining the dark water red. Tang Sam felt the sting of a dozen minor cuts, his vitality draining. The warrior saw his chance. "It's over," he bellowed, executing a masterful disarming strike. Tang Sam's sword was sent spinning from his grasp, clattering into the darkness. A mad laugh echoed off the walls. "Hurrah! What will you do now, unarmed?" The warrior lunged, his victory assured. But in the next instant, his joy turned to shock. A flash of light, a searing pain, and blood spray from a new wound on his cheek. Stumbling back, the warrior stared in disbelief. What? He clearly lost his sword, he sputtered. He touched the cut on his face, feeling the cold terror of the unknown. What kind of bizarre chains are these? He finally understood. The weapon was never just a sword. Tang Sam didn't give him time to think. He lunged, his left hand lashing out with an invisible blade. The warrior frantically parried the ghostly attack, his eyes wide with confusion. Again, the sword vanished. He was fighting a phantom he couldn't see. The battle spilled from the confines of the passage onto the moonlit lake shore. The warrior felt true fear creeping in, the hunter becoming the hunted. No, no, no. I'm really going to die at this rate. Panic frayed the edges of his martial discipline. In a desperate exchange, the warrior landed a solid blow, sending Tang Sam reeling backward onto the shore. He saw Tang Sam collapse, wounded and struggling. Relief washed over him. "You're at your limit, aren't you?" That slash from earlier actually landed. The warrior erupted in manic laughter, his fear turning to arrogance. "Huh, you troublesome brat. I got worked up for nothing." Meanwhile, Tang Sam pushed himself up, his body screaming in protest. His internal senses screamed a warning. "I've taken too much damage. My HP is..." A status window flickered in his vision, the health bar a sliver of red. But as he looked closer, another bar was nearly full. "My EXP is almost at the limit." A slow, unhinged grin spread across his bloodied face. "In that case, there is a way." Ignoring his wounds, Tang Sam charged. "You must have a death wish," the warrior sneered, gathering all his remaining chi. He unleashed his strongest move, the final form. Heavenly Wind, cleaving the heavens. A colossal torrent of sword energy surged toward Tang Sam. The warrior watched in disbelief as Tang Sam made no move to dodge. "Are you trying to take me down with you?" he shrieked. Fat chance. The cataclysmic technique slammed into Tang Sam, who stood firm, his body shredding under the assault, his eyes locked forward with terrifying purpose. The blast sent Tang Sam's broken body flying, but he was still alive. The warrior, exhausted but triumphant, strode forward. "Pahaha, you pathetic nobody." He raised his sword for the final, contemptuous blow. "Stubborn little pest. Time to end this." Lying on the ground, Tang Sam's lips peeled back into a triumphant, bloody smile. A brilliant light began to glow from within his mouth. The warrior's eyes widened in pure horror. "You son of a..." Before he could finish, an explosion of blinding light consumed everything. The light receded. The warrior stood frozen for a moment before his head, pierced clean through by Tang Sam's blade, slid from his shoulders. His headless body crumpled into the bloody water. The battle was won through a desperate, insane gamble. A new light descended from the heavens. A system window declared level up. Tang Sam's broken body was instantly healed, his vitality restored. A pillar of pure energy shot into the night sky, a beacon announcing his rebirth through combat. The pillar of light pierced the clouds, visible across the entire Namgung estate. Wah, hi, and Do Hyo-ok watched in stunned silence. From a distant grove, a mysterious, silver-haired man looked up from his companion, his gaze fixed on the impossible phenomenon. What in the world is that? The scene faded back to a blood-drenched chamber, filled with the bodies Tang Sam had left behind earlier. As if completing a thought from that moment, his voice echoed in the silence. Now it's finished. While Tang Sam journeyed to a new hunting ground, his old one burned. Under the full moon, the Danri clan estate was engulfed in flames. It was a night of slaughter, where shadows danced and steel sang a song of death. Blood stained the grand stairways, a testament to a swift and brutal purge. Danri Chanwo, head of the Danri clan, stood alone amidst the ruin of his legacy. But as he surveyed the massacre, a new figure emerged from the inferno. A monstrous silhouette of pure, demonic chi walked through the flames, its presence suffocating. Chanwo could only tremble and ask, who are you? No answer was given. None was needed. A blade flashed, a crimson arc in the fiery night. The assassin's strike was perfect, a blur of motion too fast to follow. Danri Chanwo's head fell, his reign and his life severed in a single, merciless blow. The killer stood over the fallen lord, his work complete. Speaking to the shadows, he delivered his report to a master named Hoya. The Danri clan is annihilated. Commenced the great plan. The gears of a much larger conspiracy had just begun to turn. Elsewhere, by the serene waters overlooking the Namgang estate, a different kind of monster finished his own work. The silver-haired Do Hyo-ok callously dropped the body of a girl from the Danri clan. He felt nothing but a bad taste in his mouth, a wasted effort. This small-scale violence was beneath him. His thoughts turned to the brilliant pillar of light he'd witnessed earlier. It was too flashy, too ostentatious. Gwangwon, his associate, had no sense of subtlety. But then, a colder thought intruded. What if that wasn't a signal? What if the Namgang clan already knew? He issued his orders to a subordinate kneeling in the dark. Block all roads to Anhui immediately, and commenced the first stratagem. From the shadows, a legion of warriors acknowledged his command. The hunt was escalating. Inside the Namgang clan's walls, a patrol's torchlight revealed a chamber of horrors. The guards recoiled, stunned into silence by the brutal display. Scrawled on the wall in fresh blood was a cryptic message, a prophecy of doom. When the moon is full, the emperor falls, and I, who walk slowly, shall become king. A clan elder stared at the carnage, the bloody words burning into his mind. Who would do such a thing? A subordinate asked. I don't know, the elder replied grimly. But one thing is certain, someone is targeting the Namgang clan. With the wedding fast approaching, fear coiled in his gut. Increase the guards. He gave his final orders, his voice tight with urgency. Report anyone suspicious directly to me. His men roared their assent. As the elder walked away, the weight of the threat pressed down on him, his lone figure swallowed by the vast, dark halls. His mind raced, deciphering the ghastly puzzle. Emperor refers to the Namgang clan. When the moon is full, must be the wedding night. This was a declaration. A cold terror seized him as his face went pale with dread. Who is it? What on earth is happening in the Namgang clan? The clan's council chamber erupted in debate. This is clearly a setup, one elder roared. Namgang Young, leader of the Azure Sky Sword unit, was furious. It hasn't even been a year since Do Hyo-ok joined. How can you suspect our future son-in-law over some bizarre writing? The entire Murim will laugh at us. A quiet voice cut through the noise. My opinion differs. Namgang In, leader of the Boundless Sword unit, calmly pointed to a scroll. He explained that the characters for walking slowly in the message were a clever homonym. They pointed directly to one name, Do Hyo-ok. Namgang Young stared, aghast and speechless. Namgang In continued his cold analysis. The intruder didn't try to hide. They infiltrated, killed warriors in plain sight, and left a deliberate message. This wasn't about spying. Didn't you all see that flash of light? He asked. They sent a blindingly strong signal, as if to show off, and then vanished. Namgang Young exploded once more. So we should arrest Do Hyo-ok over a frame-up? Think of Haya's reputation. The argument escalated until the clan head, seated at the head of the table, silenced them with a single word. Enough. The clan had addressed them both. Both of you are right. The situation was suspicious, but they couldn't risk the clan's honor. Isn't that why the Heavenly Thunder and Heavenly Wind units are investigating? He reminded them. All they could do was wait for news. Footsteps pounded outside the chamber. "My lord, urgent report." The door burst open and Nam Gung-hu, the Heavenly Thunder unit leader, stumbled in, his face a mask of fear. He collapsed before the council, gasping for breath. Out of the Heavenly Thunder unit members who went scouting, none have returned to the clan. The room fell into stunned silence. Not a single one returned. Nam Gung-hu stared out at the dark water, recalling his orders. They were meant to return in 2 hours. Now, only emptiness greeted him. His voice trembled as he delivered the grim conclusion. The Namgung clan seems to be surrounded by enemies. Panic finally broke. By who? The elders demanded. What faction in Anhui held such power? The 18 water channels of the Yangtze were bound by treaty. No known power could besiege the mighty Namgung. It made no sense. No. Namgungin's voice cut through the chaos, low and filled with dawning horror. There is one place, just one place in all of Murim, that has the power to surround the Namgung clan. A name from dark legends, a power thought long dormant. The Heavenly Demon Castle. As dread paralyzed the Namgung elders, Du Hyoke stood alone before a grand edifice, the prophecy echoing in his mind. When the moon is full, the emperor falls. A slow, wicked grin twisted his lips. And I, who walk slowly, shall become king. In the vast courtyard of the Namgung clan, Tang Sam stood alone. Under the bright sky, he was a creature of shadow, his mind already far from this world. He centered himself, gathering a faint light in his hands, preparing to relive the battle that had just concluded, to wring every drop of experience from it. His consciousness plunged into a dark, internal mindscape. Here, the true nature of his power manifested. A sigil glowed on his forehead as black, venomous energy coiled around his hands, condensing into a crackling nexus of pure, destructive force. One foot stomped down, shattering the ground of his memory. He exploded forward, a phantom of vengeance. The air itself seemed to rip apart as he moved, a blur of motion driven by a singular, violent purpose. He clashed with his spectral opponent, a memory of the warrior Go Sang-song. Blades met in a chaotic whirlwind of dark energy. This was not a spar. It was a reenactment of a fight to the death, every parry and strike a lesson learned in blood. His eyes snapped open in the memory. Now, the thought was an instinct. His opponent lunged, a blade of pure light aimed for his heart. The attack was impossibly fast, a finishing blow that left no room for error. With a subtle shift, Tang Sam sidestepped the lethal thrust. The water beneath his feet splashed, the only sign of his narrow escape. He held his sword ready, the adrenaline of the near-death experience flooding his senses as he whispered, "That was close." He analyzed the moment, the cold logic of a predator dissecting a hunt. If Go Sang-song had executed the Heavenly Wind sword forms just a moment sooner, defeat would have been absolute. The phantom of his foe loomed large, a monument to his own vulnerability. A fundamental truth settled in his mind, clear as a lightning strike. Martial arts. In this world, they possessed a raw, tangible power that far surpassed any mere ability granted by the system. They were the true path to supremacy. He watched the swirling abyss of power in his mind, the forms and techniques of his enemies. A new resolve took root. If I want to grow stronger, he thought, I have to master them. This was no longer a game. It was a path he had to walk. His mental simulation shifted back to the offensive. He became a tempest of violent energy, his strikes overwhelming his opponent's defenses. Blood splattered across the dark canvas of his memory as he pressed the attack without mercy. His form was a silhouette of righteous fury, each movement precise and deadly. He was a storm, and within that storm is what was the only law. The memory became a lesson in controlled chaos. The vision concluded as his spectral foe fell, collapsing into the rain-slicked darkness. The memory faded, but the crackling energy of the fight remained, coursing through his spiritual veins, a testament to the battle won. Coming back to himself in the quiet courtyard, Tang Sam let out a ragged breath. A twisted, triumphant grin spread across his face. I finally won. He marveled at the lingering sensation, the effect of the great revelation method of Tang O's son. It's incredible. To gain so much insight, to experience the flow of chi and the strain on his meridians just by repeating battles in his mind. It was a priceless treasure. Even if the meridians it simulated were only temporary, the experience was real, engraved into the muscle and bone of his very being. With enough training, he resolved, I should be able to wield true martial arts. As his determination solidified, a familiar sound chimed in the air. A blue system window materialized before his eyes, its text glowing with purpose. Congratulations. You have reached level 13 and must now complete your first-class advancement mission. The screen detailed the mission for an exclusive tester warrior. He eyed the floating window, his focus shifting from martial philosophy to game mechanics. Class advancement, he wondered, arms crossed. The objective was clear. Eliminate 100 enemies of level 10 or higher. He instantly assessed the task. The warriors he'd fought alongside Do Hyoke yesterday were likely that level, while the guards he had just massacred were probably only level 5 or 6. I thought I'd gotten stronger, he mused, but this won't be easy. As the weight of the challenge settled in, a deafening explosion suddenly ripped through the Namgung estate, shaking the very ground he stood on. The scene flashed back 10 minutes. Do Hyoke strolled calmly through the estate, a picture of leisurely confidence. He paused at the top of a grand staircase, looking down at the courtyard below, which was now swarming with guards. He descended the steps with an unhurried grace, his expression placid and unreadable. The air was thick with tension, a palpable unease that seemed to slide right off him. He was an island of calm in a sea of suspicion. His mind, however, was anything but calm. Everything became complicated after that flare went up, he thought. Security was tripled. As he considered his next move, to inform the shadows, a sharp voice cut through the air. Young Master Pa. A man with a familiar haughty air stepped into his path. Where are you rushing off to? Do Hyoke recognized him instantly. Namgung Pa, the leader of the Boundless Sword Squad. An inconvenient complication. A self-satisfied smirk played on Namgung Po's lips. I heard there was a strange light nearby earlier, so I came to check it out. At his side, an older aide asked nervously, and what did you find? Was it an intruder's signal? Namgung Po's gaze was cold as a winter rain, fixed solely on Do Hyoke. He ignored his subordinate's question entirely. Behind him, the disciplined warriors of the Boundless Sword Squad stood poised, a silent threat. He spoke with the unshakable authority of his station. You have nothing to say because you found nothing. You will come with us to the Imperial King's Hall. It was not a request. I will not take no for an answer. As Namgung Pa began to turn away, a heavy sigh escaped the aide, who knew the danger of provoking a direct heir of the Namgung family. He watched, trembling, as his master walked away from the silent Do Hyoke. Then, a strange, lilting voice echoed from behind them. I quite like this vessel. The voice was Do Hyoke's, but horribly distorted. His face contorted into a monstrous mask, a long, forked tongue flicking out from a jaw stretched impossibly wide. The aide's face contorted in abject terror as he shrieked, D-O-H-Y-O-K. In that same instant, a devastating explosion of power erupted from the monstrous figure, scattering guards like fallen leaves in a hurricane. Panic seized the aide as he realized the attack's trajectory. The Imperial King's Hall. He could only watch in horror, cursing his powerlessness as Do Hyoke became a beacon of golden, destructive energy. With his hair standing on end and a crazed, ecstatic grin on his face, Do Hyoke gathered his power. He unleashed the forbidden art, the Lightning Emperor's sword technique. First form, Thunderstrike. A cataclysmic wave of golden lightning erupted outwards, tearing the ancient stones of the courtyard asunder. The shockwave was immense, a declaration of overwhelming power that leveled everything in its path. The surviving crowd stared, dumbfounded. What is this? Isn't that young Master Do? Amidst the rubble, Namgung Pa lay defeated, gasping for air. The elite Boundless Sword Squad had been annihilated in a single, devastating blow. The aide could barely form a coherent thought. Even with a surprise attack, he took down the Boundless Sword Squad in a single strike. He looked up to see Do Hyoke, now wreathed in a sinister aura, slowly rising to his feet. The dust began to settle, revealing the lone, terrifying figure standing amidst the devastation. The remaining servants could only stare, their minds refusing to process the scene. Huh. One elderly retainer, driven by a lifetime of loyalty, rushed forward in a panic. "Hey you, young master, what are you doing?" he cried, reaching out desperately. "Sto dash." His words were silenced forever by a flicker of movement. A clean, brutal slash sent a spray of blood arcing against the sky. The old man's plea ended in a choked gurgle. The horrified crowd watched the servant's head tumble to the cobblestones. A wave of collective terror broke them. "HWA! Run!" they screamed. "Young Master Ro has gone mad. Everyone, run for your lives." Du Hyoke simply watched the chaos, a grotesque, cracked smile on his face. He made a casual gesture with his hand, as if flicking away a gnat, dismissing the lives scattering before him as utterly insignificant. Struggling to his knees, Namgung stared in disbelief. "Du Hyoke no? Who exactly are you?" The creature wearing his cousin's face merely chuckled. "I'm not telling you," it sneered, unleashing another torrent of golden power. The thunderous energy roared across the courtyard once more. It was a wave of pure annihilation, aimed directly at the fallen squad leader to erase any witness to this madness. Namgung Po's eyes widened, reflecting the golden light of his impending doom. The world dissolved into a blinding flash of agony as the attack consumed him. But through the roar of energy, a new voice echoed, cold and filled with an ancient power that commanded attention. "Hey kid," it growled. "What do you think you're doing?" An old man appeared as if from nowhere, his eyes glowing with a malevolent green light. Dark, poisonous chi writhed around him. He pointed a finger, and from it, a strange, serpentine artifact snaked out, effortlessly catching and neutralizing Du Hyoke's attack. A voice like grinding stones cut through the chaos. "You brat." An old man appeared, his eyes glowing with a toxic green light. Dark, venomous chi coiled around him like living serpents. He was not just powerful, he was a master of poison. Du Hyoke's golden light slammed into an invisible wall, stopped cold by a strange, serpentine artifact extended from the old man's finger. The artifact, a swirling piece of bone or jade, effortlessly neutralized the overwhelming power of the attack. Du Hyoke, confident in his divine might only moments ago, now stared in disbelief. The old man, Tang Wu, had not just blocked him, he had rendered his power meaningless. On the ground below, Namgung Po was spared, caught in the eye of a storm he couldn't comprehend. From a distance, Tang Sam watched, his expression unreadable. "Tang Wu," he thought, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. As expected, he intervened. This was not a surprise. It was a calculated move in a game Tang Sam had anticipated, another piece falling precisely into place. With a grunt of exertion, Tang Wu flexed his power. The venomous chi surged, not only holding back Du Hyoke's attack, but pushing it back. Du Hyoke's face contorted with strain, his veins bulging as he fought against a superior force. With a final, dismissive shove, Tang Wu cast the attack aside and landed softly on the cracked stone, his authority absolute. Namgung Po collapsed against a shattered wall, gasping for breath. Thank you, soul-chasing poison hand." He stammered, recognizing the legendary elder of the Tang clan. Tang Wu turned his back on the scene, his gaze distant. "The Murim really has grown cold lately," he sighed, the words heavy with the weariness of ages. From behind him, a grotesque figure emerged from the golden light. Du Hyoke's body twisted, his hair becoming like dead branches, a monstrous form revealing itself. "Ha!" he laughed, a dry, crackling sound. "To think a son-in-law would strike his in-laws in the back. Isn't every one of the Jianghu like that?" His smile was a rictus of pure malice, embracing the treachery. Explosions rocked the distant gates, a reminder of the ongoing siege. Tang Wu's patience had run out. "I've never been one to use words before acting," he declared, his voice dropping to a dangerous low. "You'd better confess your true identity and what's going on while I'm still being civil." A maelstrom of poison chi erupted around him, a promise of a slow, agonizing demise. Du Hyoke's eyes narrowed in recognition. "Heh, so this is the secret butterfly internal art I've heard about." He feigned a casual interest. "I'd like to fight you right now, but..." From his vantage point, Tang Sam saw the truth. Du Hyoke was posturing, planning his escape. "It's strange enough that he's here alone," Tang Sam mused. but it seems he's been looking for something this whole time. Huh. His eyes snapped towards a pile of rubble. He saw Tang Hua and his grandfather, Tang Wu. A sudden, terrible clarity struck him. Tang Wu wasn't just here to save Namgung. He was here for Hua. And in that same instant, Du Hyook's gaze locked onto his true target. Found you, he snarled. Du Hyook's plan had shifted. You wretch. Are you determined to see this to the bitter end? He roared, not at Tang Wu, but at the circumstance. He unleashed a blinding torrent of golden energy, but Tang Wu was faster. The poison hand threw his own sword, a feint designed to draw attention, while he moved to intercept. Namgung watched in horror. He threw his sword mid-battle. The move was unorthodox, desperate, but it was a diversion. The true attack, a golden spear of light, bypassed the elders and shot directly towards Tang Hua. Hua dashed. Namgung screamed, his voice filled with terror. Time slowed. Hua's eyes widened, reflecting her doom. In the last fraction of a second, a shadow moved. Tang Sam appeared before her, his body a living shield, catching her in his arms as the blast consumed them both. The world erupted in a cataclysm of light and force. When the light faded, a massive crater scarred the courtyard. Tang Wu scrambled across the broken ground, his heart pounding with fear. Hua? Tang Hua. His frantic eyes found them. Tang Sam stood amidst the dust, battered but alive, holding Hua's unconscious form. Tang Sam, the elder gasped. Did you save Tang Hua? Without a word, Tang Sam gently placed Hua into her grandfather's waiting arms. The transfer was delicate, a silent acknowledgement passing between the two men. Tang Wu clutched his granddaughter, his face a mask of profound relief and gratitude. Thank why? A guttural laugh echoed from a rooftop. Du Hyook stared down, his monstrous form silhouetted against the sky. He's strong, he observed, a new level of respect in his tone. From below, Tang Sam returned the gaze, his own assessment forming. Strong enough to compete with Tang Wu. He's a true master. Du Hyook offered a chilling smile. Well then, great hero Tang. I'll come to see you again soon. He locked eyes with the elder, a promise and a threat in one, before vanishing from the rooftop. Du Hyook felt a sliver of confusion. What was that just now? The intervention was unexpected, the power abnormal. Meanwhile, a predatory grin spread across Tang Sam's face, his eyes glowing with a sinister red light. The pieces clicked into place for Du Hyook. It was you, wasn't it? He realized with dawning certainty. The person behind last night's pillar of light and foiling my plans. It was all you're doing, wasn't it? Du Hyook gave one last look. Let's be sure to meet again, yeah? He vanished in a flash of power, leaving Tang Wu to rage at the sky. Wretch, do you think I'll let you get away? The elder coughed, the strange showing as Hua stirred in his arms. Purses, they had been completely outplayed, mere pawns in a much larger game. Under a blood-orange sky, the patriarch of the Namgung clan, Namgung Inn, sat amidst the wreckage of his great hall. A hollow laugh escaped him. To think that just 4 people reduced the king's hall to this state. He looked at the corpse of one of the yin-yang twin demons, and the horrifying truth settled in. All of Du Hyook's actions, and even his marriage to Hai, it was all planned from the start. His strategist's mind cataloged the disaster. Messenger pigeons intercepted by falcons. The clan's ultimate defensive formation shattered. We're like rats trapped in a jar. An elder approached him through the ruins. Patriarch, if I may be so bold, we currently have 3 options. Fight, flee, or send a messenger. Skip to the third, the patriarch commanded, his voice devoid of hope. You know as well as I do that the first 2 are impossible. The elder nodded. Sending a messenger to the Murim Alliance would take nearly a week. But who could possibly break through their siege? He paused, letting the weight of the question settle. There is one person, an absolute master with outstanding movement arts. An image of Tang Wu flashed in their minds. Elder Tang, the patriarch questioned. But even for him, breaking through alone would be too much. A dark shadow fell over the elder's face. He turned back to the ruined hall. That is why we will use. His voice was cold, pragmatic. The ones currently in our clan, desperate to escape. The hundreds of wedding guests. Under the light of a full moon, the Namgung estate sat besieged. Inside a quiet chamber, the patriarch met with Tang Wu and his grandchildren. Hua questioned the presence of a stranger, but Tang Wu silenced her. He vouched for Tang Sam. affirming that the boy now bore the Tang family name and was trustworthy. The weight of a dying clan settled on the patriarch's shoulders. His gaze fell, his spirit low. He looked to the legendary poison master before him, his voice heavy with the last, desperate plan. "Uncle, please escape to Soho Lake with the wedding guests and request reinforcements." Tang Wu scoffed at the naivety of the plan. "Huh, most of them will die," he spat, knowing full well the enemy's strength. The patriarch simply bowed his head, accepting the grim reality. "I'm sure you know better than I do. If we take a boat to Soho Lake, we can get help from the 18 waterway strongholds." The strategy was already in motion. The patriarch revealed that hundreds of guests and servants were gathered at the South Watergate, a fleet of ships ready for their exodus. This was not a plan for the future. It was a gamble for tonight. "You should depart immediately," he ordered. Tang Wu gave a short, grim nod. "I shall prepare." But as he turned to leave, the patriarch made one final, pleading request. "When you leave, please take Hai along with you." His voice cracked. "I do not want her to see me fighting that man." Tang Wu froze. The patriarch's facade of stoicism finally shattered, revealing the terror beneath. "Is that truly all?" The old man's face contorted in fear as he confessed his darkest dread. "In case the Namgung clan, I am afraid we won't even last 10 days. Tang Wu erupted. "You senseless old man," he roared, his fury shaking the room. "Do you think I would let that happen?" His eyes burned with a venomous green light. "Not while I, Tang Wu, the soul-chasing poison hand, am here. Endure, for I shall return with reinforcements." Hua cried out for her grandfather as Tang Wu stormed out. The patriarch remained bowed, a figure of silent desperation in the vast hall. Tang Sam watched from the doorway for a moment, his expression unreadable, before turning and following into the night. Standing alone on a cliff overlooking the estate, Tang Sam reflected. "It was a good thing I saved Tang Hua," he thought, "to think I would hear the clan's plan firsthand." Yet, his cold, analytical mind saw only flaws. But it's a plan with many uncertainties. Elsewhere, Hua ran her hands through her hair in frustration, wondering what her grandfather was truly scheming. She jumped, startled, as she noticed Tang Sam standing nearby. An awkward, heavy silence fell between them as she struggled to comprehend the emotionless boy beside her. Hua finally broke the silence, her voice trembling slightly. Thanks for saving me." Tang Sam's gaze remained fixed on the horizon, his tone devoid of warmth. "Don't get the wrong idea. I just felt like I wouldn't get another chance to say it." In that moment, a flicker of his true self emerged. An aura of pure, crimson malice pulsed around him. For Tang Sam, every action, even saving a life, was merely a step in a long, bloody path he walked alone. Far from the Namgung estate, the silver-haired ash shadow watched the same moon. A figure emerged from the trees behind him. "Right, shifting shadow." Ash Shadow's voice was like ice. "Or should I call you Do Hyo, okay?" The assassin, his mission a failure, could only offer a wicked grin. Do Hyo okay chuckled. You're speaking as if I failed." Ash Shadow's critique was immediate and sharp. 4 shadows died without achieving anything, and your presence here proves the first stratagem has failed. Shall I hear your excuse? TSK, you're wrong," Do Hyo okay purred, his smile widening. "The core of the plan is for me to become a hero of the Orthodox faction." As he spoke, his body began to twist and break, bones snapping and reforming in a grotesque display of transformation. From the violent metamorphosis, a new form emerged. Do Hyo okay now stood as a perfect, stunning replica of Namgung Hai. "In this form," she cooed, "wouldn't I naturally become the successor of Namgung?" Ash Shadow stared, his mind reeling from the sheer audacity. Ash Shadow burst into deranged laughter. "Kuha, you crazy deviant. Good, this changes everything." Yet, a sinister smile crept onto his face. "Though, she is called the first beauty of Anhui for a reason. To think I'm getting stirred up despite knowing you're a man." The transformed Do Hyo okay shot back a look of pure disgust. "Have you finally lost what's left of your mind?" Do Hyo okay snapped, but Ash Shadow's eyes glowed with purple madness. "Who cares if it's a woman or a man? As long as it looks good, that's enough." A clash of their depraved wills sent a shockwave of malevolent chi through the forest. A hawk descended from the sky, dropping a cloth into Ash Shadow's hand. He unrolled it, revealing a single character, drifting. Ah, just as I thought. The ships have set sail, he mused. A message from Water Shadow. Ash Shadow prepared to depart, but Do Hyo-ok, in Hai's form, had other ideas. I'm going to follow that hawk. Ash Shadow was incredulous. To Water Shadow, the Namgung clan would be more fun. But Do Hyo-ok simply smiled. No, there's something more interesting over there. Ash Shadow pressed, mentioning that even the great Tang Wu was with the fleet. Then, a thought struck him, his eyes widening in alarm. Wait, don't tell me. Is it about that light? Did you find out who it was? Do Hyo-ok simply laughed. Not a chance, Ash Shadow. Do Hyo-ok vanished in a flicker of movement, leaving Ash Shadow screaming his name into the empty forest. He was left alone on the cliff, staring out at the water, a new and dangerous variable now in play. On the dark, rippling waters of the Yangtze, the evacuation fleet cut a silent path. On the deck of the lead vessel, Tang Wu, Hua, and Tang Sam stood as a grim trio. They watched the land they were sworn to protect, now their former prison, disappear into the night. Their departure did not go unnoticed. From the shadowed shoreline, a rugged man tracked their progress with a spyglass. His gaze was sharp, his purpose clear. He was a sentinel of the river, and the Namgung flock had entered his domain. The scout ran along the docks to a figure whose very presence commanded authority. Supreme Stronghold Chief, it is confirmed. The woman, armed with a monstrous club, gazed at the distant fleet. She gave a simple, chilling command. Launch the ships. Let's go for a boat ride. This was the Supreme Stronghold Chief of the 18 waterway strongholds. The supposed ally. The clan's only hope for salvation. This was Water Shadow. Under the veil of night, a small fleet of ships sailed from the Namgung docks, a desperate exodus. On the lead ship's deck, Tang Wu stood vigil with Namgung Hai, while a distraught Tang Wan knelt nearby. From the shadows below, Tang Sam watched them, his expression unreadable, a silent predator observing his own. Tang Sam's mind was a razor, cutting through the emotional chaos. He analyzed Tang Wu, the peerless expert, and saw the truth. No matter the old man's power, Tang Hua and Namgung Hai were burdens, emotional anchors in a storm of blades. He played out the cold calculus of survival in his head. If they faced a moment of true life and death, and Tang Wu had to abandon one of them, it would be him, the disposable tool, the outsider. This certainty did not bring fear, only a profound and chilling clarity. The journey was unervingly calm. It's quiet. Too quiet, Tang Wu muttered, his gaze sweeping the dark waters. An army large enough to besiege Namgung should have patrols here. Sensing a trap, he ordered the fleet to slow their approach, every instinct screaming that something was wrong. Aboard another ship, the terrified wedding guests huddled together. Suddenly, a cry went up from a lookout. Lights! In the distance, a faint glow appeared on the horizon, quickly multiplying into a vast constellation of lanterns bobbing on the waves. As the ships drew closer, their banners became visible, the distinct dragon sigil of the 18 waterway strongholds. Hope ignited on the decks. Reinforcements, the guests cried, cheering with wild abandon. They believed salvation had arrived. We're saved. Namgung Hai turned to Tang Wu, relief in her voice. The 18 waterway strongholds. Have they come to help? But the old man's face was a mask of grim realization. A cold sweat beaded on his brow as he stared at the approaching armada. A single, dreadful thought formed. But the sheer number of ships was staggering, a wall of wood and sails stretching across the river. This wasn't a rescue force. This was an army. The silent waters had been a ruse, luring them into the jaws of a much larger trap. Dawning horror twisted Tang Wu's face into a snarl. They aren't reinforcements, he roared, his voice cracking with panic. The hope on the other ships turned to ash. We have to turn the ships around. Get out of here right now. But it was too late. From the deck of the enemy flagship, the Supreme Stronghold Chief, Water Shadow, watched them with cold indifference. Her warriors lined the rails, arrows nocked and aimed. The trap was sprung. Water Shadow raised a hand, her voice cutting through the night with a single, chilling command. Fire. In perfect unison, her archers loosed their bows. A torrent of flaming arrows screamed across the water, a meteor shower of death aimed directly at the fleeing ships. The sky rained fire. Decks erupted into infernos, the screams of the dying swallowed by the roar of the flames. Reacting instantly, Tang Wu unleashed his potent qi, a viridian shield of energy exploding outwards to protect himself, Hua, and Hai from the deadly volley. The green shield shimmered, deflecting the fiery projectiles, but the assault was relentless. The deck was already littered with smoldering arrows. Through it all, Tang Sam stood motionless, his eyes wide, calmly absorbing the chaos. Tang Wu desperately tried to rally the panicked crew, but his words were cut short by a new threat. From the other side, another volley of flaming projectiles lit up the sky. Their retreat was cut off. They were completely surrounded. "Grandpa, what do we do?" Hai cried, her voice laced with terror. They were flanked, a floating coffin on a river of fire. With their path blocked, Tang Wu made the only possible choice. To the side, we're heading for the shore. As chaos reigned, a figure launched from an enemy ship, landing with a heavy thud. It was Water Shadow herself, her face a mask of bloodlust and cruel amusement. She surveyed the panicked refugees and issued her final, merciless order: kill them all. Her warriors swarmed the decks, and the true slaughter began. Defenseless guests were cut down without remorse, their pleas for mercy ignored. Tang Wu watched, his body trembling with impotent rage as the ship was turned into a floating abattoir. Amidst the carnage, Tang Wu moved with purpose. He strode to a shell-shocked Tang Hua, striking her vital points with his poison-laced fingers. She collapsed, unconscious. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" Hai screamed, unable to comprehend his actions. "We have to reach shore," he stated, his voice devoid of emotion. Hai protested, knowing he couldn't carry all three of them. Tang Wu's reply was like a shard of ice. "No, just two." Hai's gaze snapped towards Tang Sam, a terrible understanding dawning in her eyes. Tang Wu faced Tang Sam, the burning ship their confessional. "Tang Sam," he began, his voice heavy with the weight of his sins. "I was greedy for your talent. That's why I planted the goo in you, to control you as a cornerstone for the Tang clan." A flicker of regret, of humanity, crossed the old poison master's face. "It seems I have really grown old, to think I've grown attached to a mere doll." With a final exertion of qi, he pulled the goo from Tang Sam's body. "I won't kill you, but I won't save you either." Hai could only gasp as Tang Wu hoisted the unconscious Hua onto his back. He gave Tang Sam one last look, a parting gift of acknowledgement. "The Tang clan may not even know of your existence, but I, the soul-chasing poison hand, will remember you." With his final words spoken, Tang Wu grabbed Hai and leaped into the darkness, a streak of green qi carrying them toward the distant shore. Tang Sam was left utterly alone, a solitary figure silhouetted against the raging inferno, abandoned. The weight of betrayal settled not as grief, but as freedom. With no one left to perform for, no eyes watching, the real Tang Sam was unleashed. As a brutish warrior charged at him, a faint blue light, the system's energy, began to glow in his hand. The thug swung his sword. Tang Sam moved like lightning, a blur of motion, a flash of blue energy, and his hand clamped around the man's throat. A sickening crack echoed in the flames, and the warrior dropped, his life extinguished before he could even register the attack. Humming a light, discordant tune, Tang Sam dragged the corpse aside. He stood at the railing, gazing out at the sea of fire and death. Now the real fun could begin. Another of Water Shadow's men walked the deck, ensuring no one was left alive. He spotted the lone figure. "Hey, you look like a mess. Are you okay?" Tang Sam turned, his face cut and bloodied, a wide, terrifying smile spreading across his lips. "I'm all good." One of Du Hyo-ok's subordinates, his face a mask of grim frustration, approached the Supreme Stronghold Chief. "Did you see a strange guy?" he demanded, his voice tight. "Someone with pitch-black eyes? Or an expert who uses martial arts that emit light?" Water Shadow did not turn from the burning vista, her grip tightening on her monstrous club. "I have not," she answered, her voice as cold and deep as the river itself. The man grit his teeth in silent fury. Their perimeter was absolute, the river locked down completely. All four directions are blocked off, yet he vanished without a trace. He could not comprehend such a feat, but he was wrong. The ghost he searched for stood nearby, a shadow among shadows, savoring the chaos. A slow, wicked grin spread across Tang Sam's blood-spattered face, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. He watched the fleet burn, the screams a symphony to his ears. Well, some problems, he mused, were simple. There was nothing a good massacre couldn't fix. Far from the burning river, under the oppressive dark of the Anhui Mountains, another desperate gamble was underway. A long, winding path cut through the dense forest. On it moved a silent procession of shadows, the hundreds of wedding guests, now sacrifices offered to the hope of survival. A rustle in the undergrowth shattered the night's silence. From the darkness, assassins leaped forth, their blades hungry for blood. But before they could strike, a green venomous light erupted from the column of refugees. An ancient, serpentine artifact, controlled by Elder Tang Wu, danced through the air, weaving a tapestry of death. It struck with impossible speed, piercing throats and hearts before the killers could even register their own demise. The carnage was absolute. The artifact, an extension of its master's will, was a blur of emerald destruction. It ripped through the ambushers, leaving only a trail of blood and silenced bodies. When the green mist of its chi subsided, Tang Wu stood over the fallen, his expression a mask of cold fury. The survivors stared, their terror palpable. The Black Crow unit's commander surveyed the massacre, a single master having done what a dozen of his men could not. "We'll continue moving," he commanded, his voice strained. But his men stumbled, their stamina gone. Gritting his teeth, he finally relented. "We will rest for a moment." In a small clearing, the exhausted warriors collapsed, catching their breath under the watchful eyes of their leader. He scanned his surviving men, the grim reality setting in. Only half of the Black Crow unit is left. He thought, his heart sinking. No, is it even fewer? Doubt not at him. A key warrior, Danri Hui, had vanished without a trace, and he knew they were alone and exposed. Survival was no longer a guarantee, not even for his elite unit. A single thought consumed him. We need to return to the Danri clan as soon as possible. A sudden rustle from the trees snapped him from his thoughts. His head shot up, eyes wide with alarm. Black Crow unit, rise. Prepare for battle, he roared, his men scrambling to their feet. Swords were drawn as they faced the darkened woods. Who's there? The forest fell silent, a heavy, expectant pause. Then, the shadows themselves began to move. Out from between the ancient trees stepped a horde of menacing figures, their faces scarred and their eyes cold. The Black Crow warriors gasped in horror, recognizing the new threat. Pirates, one of them stammered. At the forefront of the pirates stood a man wrapped in stained bandages, only his eyes visible. Those eyes burned with a terrifying crimson light, locking onto the cornered warriors. A voice, muffled but dripping with chilling amusement, echoed in the clearing. Peekaboo. In a desolate clearing, two factions stood opposed. The air was thick with killing intent, a silent promise of the carnage to come. One leader, his face a mask of brutal glee, roared his command. Don't leave a single one alive. Kill them all. On the other side, the leader of the Danri clan steeled his men with a desperate plea. Don't die. We will all survive and return to the Danri clan. With cries of defiance, the two forces collided in a violent explosion of steel and blood. A bandaged warrior was nearly overwhelmed, steel flashing perilously close. But just as a blade was about to find its mark, an immense blue aura erupted from him. He moved, faster than sight, a blur of motion culminating in a blinding flash of light. The Danri clan's leader gasped for breath, his body screaming in protest. My body is already at its limit, he thought, sweat beading on his brow. Knowing he had one last chance, he resolved to end it. I have to settle this quickly somehow. He channeled the last of his chi, his blade glowing with an ethereal light. Single stream, 10-sword style. He became a whirlwind of slicing energy, a dance of death intended to shred his opponent to ribbons. The bandaged warrior's eyes, however, showed no fear. A strange purple light flickered within them as he tracked every movement, every subtle shift in chi. I can see his sword, he realized with a cold certainty. He stood his ground, a silhouette against the chaos, and sneered. Such petty tricks. He moved. He was a phantom, weaving through the storm of blades as if it were a gentle breeze. Their swords finally met with a deafening clang, the impact sending both men hurtling backward through the air. The leader's eyes widened in shock as he recognized the counter. 3 forces sword. Impossible. He lunged forward, pouring all his rage into a final, decisive strike. His sword plunged deep into his opponent's chest. But the victory was a phantom. The leader gasped, not in triumph, but in agony. The hidden dagger was embedded in his own side. Blood erupted from the wound. How? He choked out, his mind reeling. I was certain I landed a perfect blow. The bandaged warrior casually wiped blood from his face. Someone once told me this, he stated, his voice a low rasp. In a life-or-death battle, the one who hides more has the advantage. So, is one hidden dagger all you've prepared? The leader stared, a chilling sense of familiarity dawning in his mind. Those eyes, I've definitely seen them somewhere before. As if to prove his point, the warrior gestured. Daggers materialized from thin air, hovering around him before shooting forward in a deadly volley. This was no simple swordplay. It was a power beyond the known laws of the Murim. The leader grunted, parrying the impossible assault. The truth struck him with the force of a physical blow. I knew it. My eyes weren't deceiving me. He's been summoning something from thin air this whole time. What kind of sorcery is this? As the leader was pinned down by the spectral blades, his own men charged from behind, screaming for his death. He was trapped, attacked from all sides. A sword pierced his back, and he looked up to see his bandaged foe, eyes glowing a hellish red. Don't you dare mess with my hunt, the demon snarled. The last pieces fell into place with dreadful clarity. The leader stared, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. Those eyes, I remember now. The name came out as a strangled shriek. That bug from the Danri clan. Sosum. Screaming in rage and disbelief, the leader lunged. A lowly wretch like you. Since when? Since when have you been deceiving me? His blade met Sosum's in a furious clash, but the tide of battle had irrevocably turned. The leader pushed back, his mind racing. You demon, the suicide plague in Bonyang must have been your doing as well. His accusation was met with the cold, unblinking gaze of Sosum's blood-red eyes. Desperate, the leader tried to wound him with words. You were just someone cleaning horse dung in the noble clan. But Sosum was no longer a stable hand. From his sleeve, a segmented chain blade snaked out, whipping through the air in an impossible, deadly pattern. The chain blade was a living thing, a silver serpent that coiled around the leader, its barbs tearing into him from every direction. He collapsed, his lifeblood pooling on the ground, his last thoughts of the clan he failed. Sosum stood over the corpse, a crimson aura of pure killing intent radiating from his body. I told you, Sosum said to the corpse, his voice devoid of emotion. The one who hides more has the advantage. He turned his attention to the remaining bandits. One of them looked around nervously. Curses, where are the reinforcements? Sosum watched, his expression unreadable. He knew exactly why the reinforcements had stopped coming. A bandit, ignorant of his doom, suddenly spotted figures emerging from the woods. Huh, they're finally here, he cheered. You have to admit, the higher-ups are always so slow, one of them joked, relieved. But as the new arrivals drew nearer, another bandit squinted in confusion. What's with them? Why are they all wearing their clothes inside out? Their leader called out. Stronghold leader, why are you so late? And why are your clothes inside OU? His words were cut short as the reinforcements, without a word, drew their blades and began to slaughter their own allies. Their eyes were vacant, their movements perfectly synchronized, a tide of silent death. Sloppy. Beneath a dark, foreboding sky, the jagged peaks of a mountain clawed at the clouds. Down in the misty forests, a brutal purge was underway. Warriors of the same clan were being hunted down, their bodies littering the blood-soaked ground as their comrades relentlessly pursued them. An old warrior, his strength broken, collapsed to the ground in utter terror. He looked up at his assailant, a man he once called brother, and begged for his life. Please, spare me, he cried, his voice trembling. Why are you suddenly doing this? His attacker's resolve wavered. Darn it, I can't do this anymore, he stammered, horrified at the thought. How can we kill our own comrades? But hesitation was a luxury he could not afford. A blade pierced his back, silencing his dissent forever. The pirate captain surveyed the scene, his face a mask of cold fury. I will personally crush the skulls of anyone who steps back, he roared. His order echoed through the trees, a chilling decree. Kill them. Don't leave a single one alive. Watching the slaughter from a distance, the bandaged man observed the brutal tactics. The pirates were being culled, forced to fight each other in a cruel test of loyalty. He was a predator caught in another's hunt. With a flicker of movement, he vanished into the undergrowth. His form became a blur, a whisper of motion gliding through the darkness. His eyes, sharp and focused, darted through the trees as he repositioned himself, turning from observer to participant. He peered through the woods and saw a line of torches blocking the only path down the mountain. The encirclement was complete. His eyes narrowed with grim understanding. Here as well, the trap was closing from all sides. His mind processed the battlefield with cold efficiency, killing even their fellow pirates. They surrounded the mountain and are hurting people. He recognized the strategy immediately. This was a driving hunt, designed to corral prey for an easy slaughter. A sliver of a smile touched his bandaged lips, his crimson eye gleaming with a predatory light. The thought was amusing. I've never been the prey before. With a burst of speed, he shot forward, ready to remind them who the true hunter was. He flew from the shadows like a vengeful specter, landing amidst a group of shocked pirates. An enemy, one screamed. Before they could react, his bladed rope dart danced through the air, a whirlwind of steel and gore that left only dismembered bodies in its wake. With each kill, a familiar surge of energy flowed through him. A translucent screen appeared in his vision, his experience bar nearly full. A new level of power was within his grasp. My next level up isn't far off. The surviving pirates broke, their discipline shattering into raw panic. That way, run, they shrieked, scattering into the woods. Watching them flee, a new idea took root in his mind. Those guys, maybe I can use them. Meanwhile, the wedding guests, including great hero Tang and his granddaughter, were also being driven up the mountain. The old master's senses flared. "Grandpa, you felt it too, right?" she asked. He nodded grimly. "Yeah, it's a driving hunt. They keep herding us toward the mountain peak." A man sprinted toward them, his face pale with terror. "Great hero Tang, why you need to come see this?" He led them forward, and they followed, only to stop dead in their tracks. The sight before them stole the air from their lungs. The path ended. Before them was nothing but a sheer cliff and a long drop into darkness. Despair washed over the trapped guests. "What's going to happen to us now?" one wailed, collapsing. "It's over. We're going to die." Great hero Tang's patience snapped. He roared, his voice thundering over the cries of despair. "Shut up. Who says it's over? Even an old man like me hasn't given up. You're giving up on living." His indomitable spirit was infectious. He drew his claws, his eyes burning with defiance. "We just have to kill every single wretch that comes up here. What? Do you think we can't?" His granddaughter stood beside him, knives ready, her resolve matching his. Just as they prepared to charge, the approaching pirates raised their hands. Wait. We were attacked too," one shouted desperately. "We ran away too. The guys the stronghold leader brought attacked us. We're on the same side." Tang Wu's eyes widened. Internal conflict. His mind raced, seeing the opportunity. "This is our chance," he yelled to the others. "We're heading back down the mountain. Aside if you don't want to die." He let out a booming, maniacal laugh. But their hope was short-lived. Two figures blocked the path down, emerging from the shadows. It was Water's shadow and a large, bearded man. "Ha ha ha, great hero Tang, you ran so hard, and this is the best you could do," the man taunted. "You look just like a rat in a jar." Tang Wu snarled, his claws glinting. "And who the heck are you?" The man chuckled, his face contorting and reshaping itself into a familiar, hated visage. "Ah, perhaps you'd recognize me with this face." Tang Wu recoiled in horror, screaming the name, "Dohok." Water Shadow seemed bored by the display. "Shifting Shadow, we don't have time for your nonsense. Hurry up and deal with the soul-chasing poison hand." But Dohok, or Shifting Shadow, held up a hand. "He's going to die anyway. Let's take our time. Besides, one guy hasn't arrived yet, and I have something to ask him." He turned his attention back to the furious great hero Tang. Whoa, calm down," he said with a mocking smile. "I just have one little thing to ask you before we clash. That piece of trash you were carrying around, where is he right now?" Hidden in the shadows, a man watched the confrontation. From the darkness, his bandaged face observed the chaos, his single visible eye glinting with cunning. A thought surfaced. Were they looking for me? The pieces started to connect. Then, the reckless move of killing their own allies was for me? He pieced it together. No, it was only natural. Considering the brilliant flash of light he'd unleashed that night, his intervention must have completely ruined their plans. From their perspective, he was someone they absolutely had to hunt down and kill. A slow, trembling breath escaped him as a wide, manic grin spread across his hidden face. Ow, how delightful is this? On the cliff top, Shifting Shadow scanned his surroundings, a bored expression on his face. An expert capable of unleashing a flash of light like that couldn't possibly be dead. I'm certain he's around here somewhere. He turned towards the dark woods, his voice echoing. Hey, are you hiding? Come out right now. I told you before, didn't I? That we'd definitely meet again. His face contorted in a furious snarl. If you don't come out by the time I count to 3. His eyes scanned the battlefield, littered with the bodies of pirates and Black Crow warriors alike. The scent of blood was thick in the air. Suddenly, his gaze snapped to a specific point, his eye widening with discovery. A triumphant roar ripped through the clearing. There you are. A brilliant blue status window flashed into existence before the target's eyes, visible only to him. In the next instant, an explosion of blinding white light erupted from his position. Shifting Shadow shielded his eyes, looking back in shock as the light subsided. The figure was gone. He disappeared. He squinted, replaying the moment in his mind. No, it was only a fleeting moment, but I saw a shadow within the light. Then, down the cliff, he glanced over the precipice into the darkness below. Not even Tang Wu could survive that fall. Suicide? Or perhaps... He turned his attention back to the remaining enemies. The survivors of the Namgung clan were huddled together, utterly defeated. Among the defeated, the young lady began to stir. Meanwhile, the two factions faced each other across the bloody clearing. Shifting Shadow let out a frustrated sigh. This leaves a bad taste in my mouth. He turned his predatory gaze towards Tang Wu, a cruel smile playing on his lips. It's a shame, but I suppose I'll have to settle for you. Water Shadow and Ash Shadow held up the disoriented young lady, Tang Hua. Her eyes fluttered open and widened in disbelief. Young Master Du, she stammered. WH. What on earth is the meaning of this? Why are you... Shifting Shadow glanced back at her with condescending pity. Was our young lady always such an idiot who couldn't grasp the situation? Tang Wu's eyes blazed with fury and desperation. Fall back, he roared to the Namgung survivors. They're coming. But Shifting Shadow simply raised a hand, casually halting his approaching forces. He intended to savor this moment. Wait a minute. Move. One of Shifting Shadow's underlings tried to stop the newcomer, but was shoved aside. A new figure strode through the crowd of pirates, his white hair and blood-splattered robes a stark contrast to the night. It was Du Jin Mayong, a chilling, serpentine smile on his face. I said move, didn't I? He snarled, before addressing the group. Surely you weren't about to start the feast without someone as great as me. Tang Wu's blood ran cold. Another one. The men before were already on par with his clan's peak realm experts, and now another had arrived. Despair clawed at his heart. He gripped the hair of a severed head, his knuckles white. Du Jin Mayong smirked. Oh, come to think of it, I brought a gift with me. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed the severed head onto the ground. It rolled to a stop, its vacant eyes staring up at the night sky. He spread his arms wide, a deranged showman. Drumroll, and the gift is Tada, the fresh, warm head of the Namgung clan's patriarch. A wave of horror and disbelief washed over the Namgung survivors. The world tilted for Tang Hua. Her knees gave out, and she collapsed, crawling on the cold earth towards the head. Her trembling hands reached out. Grandpa. She cradled the head of her beloved grandfather, a silent scream frozen on her lips. The sight sent Du Jin Mayong into a fit of sputtering laughter. It grew louder, more unhinged, until he was howling with glee. Baha, cradling her dead grandfather and sobbing her eyes out, the first beauty of Anhui. He clutched his stomach, tears of mirth streaming down his face. I knew it, a beautiful woman's ruined. Crying face is what excites me the most. He finally calmed, a deeply unsettling smile fixed on his face. You guys too? He asked, noticing the silence. His allies, Shifting Shadow and Water Shadow included, stared at him with revulsion. Even for hardened assassins, this was monstrous. Water Shadow growled, madman. Shifting Shadow's face was grim. This guy isn't even human. Dujin Mayon's face twisted in rage. What? We crushed the Namgung clan, and Tang Wu will die by our hands soon enough. That makes 2 beyond peak realm expert heads, and 2 wives to hold by my side. He laughed maniacally, but his words fell into a dead, heavy silence. His wives were staring at him with pure terror. In that moment of distraction, Tang Wu acted. A torrent of malignant green chi burst from his body. With a desperate roar, he hurled several small objects through the air. They flew past the assassins, not at them, but towards Tang Hua and her attendant. The objects were Dragon Phoenix golden needles, alight with sickly green energy. Tang Hua looked up, confused. Grandpa! The needles pierced her and her attendant, and ethereal green thread shot out, binding them. It was a lifeline, spun from the last of Tang Wu's internal energy. Tang Wu gritted his teeth, pouring his very life force into the technique. He knew it wasn't enough to guarantee a safe landing from the cliff. Your limbs? No, you might even be crippled for life, he thought. But his eyes were filled with desperate resolve. But you two surviving is the most important thing to me. Shifting Shadow realized what was happening. Tang Wu, what are you doing? He shrieked. But Tang Wu ignored him, his entire being focused on his final command, a roar that shook the heavens. Tang Hua of the Sichuan Tang clan. Survive, even if you break, even if you are ruined. Stay alive, and return one day to repay this blood debt to me, Tang Wu. The green threads pulled taut, yanking the 2 women over the edge of the cliff into the abyss. Grandpa, Tang Hua screamed. Dujin Mayon's eyes bulged with fury. No, you old fool. How dare you take my wives? He launched himself towards the cliff's edge, intent on stopping them. But Tang Wu was faster. His body erupted in a maelstrom of poisonous green chi. He was no longer a clan elder. He was the soul-chasing poison hand, one of the 10 greats. That old man's aura suddenly. Dujin Mayon thought in alarm. Tang Wu turned to him, his hands crackling with deadly power. Come, heavenly demon castle. The only thing I have left is the empty name of the 10 greats. So from this moment on, I shall reap your spirit essence. Into the endless, mist-choked abyss he fell. He moved with purpose, scraping and sliding down the jagged cliff face. This was not a fall to his death. This was a controlled descent, a plummet into the heart of the battlefield. 500 meters down. Another 12 to 1500 to go, he calculated, his mind a razor in the screaming wind. This descent was suicidal for any normal warrior. But his body, tempered by the system, was different. He had a plan. He slammed his sword into the rock, trying to arrest his momentum. The shriek of metal on stone echoed for a moment before the blade was torn from his grasp, lost to the darkness below. My sword, but there was no time for regret. A new strategy formed in an instant. Inventory, he roared internally. A blue light flared around him as bodies, the spoils of his previous massacre, materialized from the void. They tumbled into the abyss alongside him, a grim collection of disposable tools. He grabbed the first corpse, using it as a gruesome buffer. A sickening crunch echoed as he slammed it against a rock outcropping, the impact absorbed by dead flesh. Again and again, he used the bodies to break his fall, each one a step on his macabre ladder to the bottom. Whether it was Tang Wu or the enemy, they would all end up at the bottom of this cliff. He would survive this fall. He would find his opportunity in the chaos below. He would live. Meanwhile, on the cliff's peak, the battle raged. Dujin Mayon stared in disbelief at the swirling maelstrom of poison chi. Poison arts. I thought he couldn't use them because of those tagalongs, his own clan members. He scoffed. To think that stubborn old man would gamble his own granddaughter's life at the very end. But such a desperate move meant only one thing. Tang Wu had been pushed to his absolute limit. Everyone, attack the soul-chasing poison hand, Dujin Mayon shrieked. Spurred on by their master's command, the warriors of the heavenly demon castle surged forward. Their eyes burned with greed and ambition. The chance to kill one of the legendary 10 greats was a prize beyond measure. Charge! Kill him! The first wave crashed against Tang Wu, a tide of steel and fury. Every warrior screamed for his head, for the glory that would be theirs. Move, he's mine. I'll be the one to kill the soul-chasing poison hand. Tang Wu met their charge not with a blade, but with an ancient, forbidden art. Soul-dementing ghost poison hand. A tidal wave of virulent green energy erupted from his body. Ghostly, screaming faces formed in the toxic mist, sweeping over the charging horde. "Block it," one warrior cried, but it was already too late. The world vanished in a blinding flash of green light, a silent, deadly explosion of pure poison chi that consumed everything in its path. When the light faded, the clearing was a wasteland of melted forms. Yet 3 figures remained standing, Du Jin Myong and his 2 elite guards. To think he can still use an attack of this level. Du Jin Myong mused, unnerved. If we hadn't taken the antidote beads beforehand, we really might have melted. But the antidote was not perfect. One of his guards began to cough, then choke, his face contorting in agony as green vapor seeped from his skin. Guh. Ack. Tang Wu watched, his own body trembling from the exertion. "Ow, are you guys completely fine?" he rasped. The choking man spat a small, dark bead onto the ground. Instantly, his spasms ceased. A wild, ecstatic laugh tore from his throat. "Huh." He took a deep, shuddering breath, a terrifying grin spreading across his face. "Yuha, I finally feel alive." He turned his gaze to the battlefield, where his former comrades had pleaded for salvation. They kept these all to themselves. His eyes burned with a new, horrifying light. In a flash of movement, he was upon the other survivors from his own faction. He plunged his hand into their chests, absorbing their life essence in a vortex of green energy. Their screams were cut short as their bodies withered into dust. Tang Wu watched the betrayal, his energy failing. "An antidote bead? You came fully prepared to kill this old man." He straightened, his aura flaring once more. "That being said, the one standing before you is one of the 10 greats. Did you really think a mere bead could stop the likes of me?" Terror flashed in their eyes. In the next instant, Tang Wu moved, a blur of green death. "He's fast." The traitorous guard was still reeling as Tang Wu appeared before him, a hand crackling with toxic power. "Get out of the way!" the guard roared, desperate. Tang Wu launched a concentrated sphere of poison, but the guard met it head-on, his own dark energy shattering the attack. "I broke through," he screamed, his face a mask of triumphant madness. He lunged, aiming to bypass the old master. But Tang Wu was faster, grabbing his arm with an iron grip. "Where do you think you're going?" Tang Wu scoffed, as if a mere hidden weapon would work. But it wasn't a weapon meant for piercing. The lotus-shaped object in the guard's hand pulsed with light and exploded, blasting him away from Tang Wu's grasp. "You crazy old man," Du Jin Myong screamed, diving from the air. "Stop throwing hidden weapons like a coward and fight me fair and square." He unleashed his own technique, Shadowed Phantom Bloom, filling the air with a storm of violet energy blades. "And fighting 3-on-1 isn't cowardly," Tang Wu retorted, his hands a blur. In response to the phantom blades, he unleashed a hail of his own creations, countless explosive darts and projectiles that filled the sky, turning Du Jin Myong's attack into a massive chain of detonations. Du Jin Myong was thrown back by the force of the explosions. "Ugh, as expected of the Tang clan, you're so incredibly petty." But as he looked up, his eyes widened in horror. Tang Wu was already launching his next attack. A single, thin green thread, nearly invisible in the night, shot out, drops of blood-red poison clinging to it. It whipped through the air like a striking serpent, coiling tightly around Du Jin Myong's ankle. A cold, victorious voice echoed in the darkness. "Caught you." A gleam of triumph lit Tang Wu's eyes. The single, nearly invisible poison thread had found its mark, coiling around Du Jin Myong's ankle. Years of training, a lifetime of perfecting his clan's deadly arts, all culminated in this single moment. A vicious, triumphant whisper echoed in the night. "Caught you." With a sharp tug, Tang Wu yanked Du Jin Myong through the air. The master of the heavenly demon castle was now a puppet on a string. Desperate, Du Jin Myong raised his blade, a futile attempt to sever the thread. "I have to block," but it was too late. Tang Wu was already upon him, his form a blur of green, poisonous chi. Tang Wu's fingers, like the claws of a phantom, jabbed forward with impossible speed. It wasn't a killing blow, but something far more insidious. A pressure point strike. Du Jin Myong's eyes widened in horror as his entire body seized up. "I can't move. My body." Paralyzed and helpless, Du Jinmayong could only watch as Tang Wu loomed over him, a silhouette of pure malice. "I'll start by gouging out those filthy eyes that dared to look at Hua," the old man hissed. His fingers, glowing with venomous qi, plunged forward. A gut-wrenching scream of pure agony tore through the night. Kwa. But the pain triggered something deep within Du Jinmayong. An explosive torrent of golden qi erupted from his body, crackling with raw lightning. His supposed mastery of the saber was a feint, a mask for his true power. A pawn technique? Tang Wu thought, stunned. So that was your true skill. With a roar of fury, Du Jinmayong unleashed his ultimate art, Thunderclap 100 Strikes Palm. Not to be outdone, Tang Wu met the challenge, his body swirling with emerald poison. He countered with his own deadly technique, the delusional 6 acupoint blood hand. This was no longer a battle. It was a clash between two of the 10 greats. Lightning and poison collided in a cataclysmic explosion of energy. For a moment, it seemed Du Jinmayong's raw power was superior. Tang Wu was pushed back, his movements faltering. A cruel grin spread across Du Jinmayong's face. "It seems your internal energy is finally running out." The light from the blast faded. Du Jinmayong blinked, but his world remained a swirling gray. The poison, the impact, he couldn't see. He reached for his face, his voice a choked whisper of disbelief. "I can't see. My precious eyes." Blinded and enraged, Du Jinmayong descended into pure berserker fury. "Tang Wu, you fiend!" he shrieked, his voice cracking with madness. "I'm dragging you down with me." He charged blindly, swinging his blade with reckless abandon, each strike carrying the full force of his remaining power. Tang Wu was struck, sent flying back by the sheer force of the desperate assault. He crashed to the ground, blood sputtering from his lips. For a moment, it seemed the old master was defeated, but a terrifying shockwave suddenly pulsed from his position, warping the very air around him. The ground itself seemed to tremble as the shockwave expanded, kicking up a massive cloud of dust and debris. Du Jinmayong's subordinate, watching from a distance, could only stare in disbelief at the scale of the power being unleashed. The entire battlefield was engulfed in chaos. As the dust began to settle, Du Jinmayong clutched his bleeding sockets, screaming, You cur, my eyes! That fiendish old man destroyed my eyes." One of his subordinates moved to finish the fight, but the other held him back. "Wait," he cautioned, sensing the battle was far from over. Out of the darkness, a figure emerged. Battered, bleeding, but unbroken, Tang Wu began to walk forward, each step heavy with lethal intent. The subordinates stared in disbelief. "This crazy old man." One stammered, "He can still move?" Tang Wu wasn't just walking, he was activating his final trap. The ground beneath the warriors erupted as countless hidden projectiles, planted long before, shot upwards. "The ground," one of them yelled in alarm. When did he plant hidden weapons? Tang Wu's true genius was not just in poison, but in meticulous, deadly preparation. The subordinate with the massive blade found himself caught in a whirlwind of poison needles and steel threads. He desperately swung his weapon, trying to fend off the unending assault. But the projectiles were not random. They were a coordinated storm, a dance of death orchestrated by a grandmaster. The subordinate grunted in exertion, realizing the terrifying truth. He's been aiming at the same spot this whole time. Every needle, every dart, every thread struck the same point on his great blade. With a deafening crack, the weapon began to fracture. "It's useless," he roared at Du Jinmayong. "Tang Wu." With one final, precise strike, Tang Wu's poison thread whipped through the air and hit the crack. The massive blade shattered into 1,000 pieces. The subordinate stared, defenseless, as a single, lotus-shaped dart flew towards his forehead. A pathetic, choked curse escaped his lips. "Oh heck!" The dart found its mark. Tang Wu's eyes opening. His energy was nearly gone. This was his only chance. Now, he thought, I must kill him for sure right now. He lunged towards the blinded Du Jinmayong, a blur of green fury. But just as he was about to strike, a figure appeared in his path. It was the second subordinate, his face twisted into a grotesque, shark-toothed grin. "Where are you going?" he snarled. "We're not done yet." He threw himself in front of his master, taking Tang Wu's desperate attack head-on. With a sickening crunch, he bit down hard on Tang Wu's arm, refusing to let go. Tang Wu grimaced in pain, his body trembling from exhaustion. The continuous use of hidden weapons had drained him completely. He could feel the berserker's teeth grinding against bone. No, he thought, his gaze hardening. This is my last chance to kill him. In a moment of grim resolve, Tang Wu made his choice. In that case, I'll sacrifice my arm. He poured the last dregs of his poison qi into his trapped limb, letting it detonate in a final, brilliant flash of emerald light. The subordinate was obliterated, and the force of the blast sent Tang Wu hurtling away into the darkness. Tang Wu landed hard, his body broken. He slowly rose, his gaze fixed on the two remaining figures in the clearing, the blinded master and his last, terrified subordinate. A cold, weary voice cut through the silence. That leaves two. At the edge of the world, the battle was over. Tang Wu stood alone amidst the carnage, his reserves utterly depleted. His internal energy was gone, his hidden weapons spent. Only two enemies remained, a hulking warrior and the blinded master, Shifting Shadow. All that remained was his old, broken body, a vessel of pure, unyielding will. He coughed up blood, the cost of his defiance. He had given everything for this one chance. The warrior sneered, seeing only a finished old man. The warrior charged, roaring for Tang Wu's death. But the old master moved. He performed a lazy donkey roll, a disgraceful, unorthodox technique shunned by the righteous. The subordinate bellowed, enraged. You call yourself one of the 10 greats. Have you no honor? Tang Wu looked up from the dirt, a cold fire in his eye. Honor? I threw that off the cliff a long time ago. He exploded upwards, no longer a master of poisons, but a beast of pure survival, and tackled his foe. He grabbed the warrior's face, a final gambit taking shape in his mind. Sacrificing his own arm, he detonated the last of his poison qi in a brilliant, devastating flash. The blast sent Tang Wu hurtling back, his body shattered, but his enemy was no more. Against all odds, the subordinate's mangled body still stood, taunting him. Tang Wu rose, his spirit burning brighter than ever. Cowards who possess neither the resolve to face death, nor the courage to sacrifice anything, he roared, his aura clashing with the subordinates in a final confrontation. As the first light of dawn broke over the mountains, a lone silhouette stood tall. In his hand, he held the severed head of his foe. The battlefield was silent, the ground soaked in blood. Victory had been achieved at a terrible cost. The last remaining enemy, the blinded Shifting Shadow, felt the overwhelming killing intent and despaired. He had brought an army, and they had been annihilated by a single, wounded old man. He scrambled backward in sheer terror. Stay away, you monster. While the coward panicked, a figure hauled themselves over the cliff's edge. Tang Wu paid it no mind. He stood muttering, his eyes vacant, his mind finally broken by the immense strain. The fire that had burned so brightly had finally consumed his sanity. Shifting Shadow watched, confused, as the old master lost his mind. But then, Tang Wu's body seized, his eyes glowing with a primal light. He lunged at Shifting Shadow for the final blow, only for his fist to be caught midair. It was Tang Hua, returned from the abyss. Tang Wu stared, a flicker of recognition in his broken mind. Hua, he whispered. But the woman before him was no longer his granddaughter. A grotesque smile spread across her face as she spoke with a voice not her own. I finally caught you, Tang Wu, she snarled, plunging a hand through his chest. For a moment, Tang Hua's consciousness returned, realizing she had survived thanks to the Shifting Shadow art. The command to survive had been fulfilled. Gazing at her dying grandfather, a victorious, scarred grin stretched across her face. It's our victory, Tang Wu. Shifting Shadow staggered to his feet, laughing with relief. He began to gloat, describing the tortures he would inflict upon the fallen master. His rant was cut short as he clutched his chest, a sudden, searing pain erupting from within. Tang Wu's hand clenched one last time. His will transcended death itself. He poured the very last of his life force into a final, desperate act of vengeance, a technique meant for mutual destruction. Heaven-shrouding petal rain. Shifting Shadow's eyes widened in horror. The hidden weapons Tang Wu had embedded in his body earlier were now exploding. A cataclysmic detonation of green poison energy engulfed him, leaving nothing behind. The force of the blast sent Tang Wu's lifeless body over the cliff's edge, falling into the mists. His final thoughts drifted to his granddaughter. "Wah, I wanted to see you get married. Please survive." Far below, at the bottom of the ravine, a field of red butterflies danced over a silent battlefield. A lone figure sat amidst the bodies, his arm a ragged stump. His eyes, burning with crimson light, opened. "Finally, you're finally coming. Tang Wu." Consciousness returned with a jolt. Tang Wu's eyes snapped open, finding only the cracked, unforgiving stone of the ravine floor. A shattered gasp escaped his lips. "Am I still alive?" But life was a cruel jest. His body wouldn't move, a broken puppet whose strings had been cut. The impact had left nothing intact. He tried to sense his core. Nothing. My innate chi has completely dissipated. The realization was cold, absolute. His meridians were destroyed, his life force bleeding away with every agonizing breath. "I'll be dead soon enough." His fading gaze drifted across the valley floor. It was a graveyard. The bodies of the wedding guests and the pirates were strewn everywhere, a testament to the fall. But something was wrong. Their wounds weren't from the impact alone. Someone had finished them off. Then, a figure emerged from the mists, standing amidst the dead. A silhouette backlit by divine rays of light. A chilling familiarity washed over Tang Wu, and his eyes widened in utter disbelief. "You're Tang Sam." From the shadows, Tang Sam surveyed his handiwork. The martial artists slaughtered at the bottom of the cliff. A bloodstained sword, resting among crimson butterflies. He had been waiting for this moment, waiting for his true prey. Tang Wu's voice was a ragged whisper. "Tang Sam. No, who exactly are you?" The figure's eyes, burning with a demonic red light, met his. "Tang Wu." The voice was cold, devoid of the respect a student owed a master. A blade was pressed against the old man's throat. "You have no idea how long I've waited for this moment." Betrayal erupted into pure rage. You wretch." Tang Wu roared. "I personally bestowed the Tang family name upon you, and now you dare try to kill me?" He snarled, his regret a poison in itself. "I should have killed you on the ship back then. Gu, tear apart your host's body." A low, mocking chuckle came from Tang Sam. "Hee, did you forget that the goo is still inside you?" He leaned in closer, his voice a venomous whisper. "Soon it will shred your body to pieces." Then, his expression turned to ice. "That bug? I took that thing out a long time ago." Tang Wu's eyes blew wide with absolute shock. "What? How in the world?" Tang Wu stammered. His last gambit dissolved into nothing. Tang Sam's voice echoed in his mind, narrating a dark truth. "This place is Murim. It is a world of killing arts. Learn to take lives." The reflection of the blade in Tang Wu's eye was the last thing he saw clearly. The monologue continued, a philosophy forged in blood. Madmen live under the law where the weak are prey to the strong. Whether orthodox, unorthodox, or demonic, they enforce their justice through violence. Tang Sam saw them all as butterflies, fluttering beautifully in a sky of slaughter. And I was the caterpillar crawling on the ground. But now, in this place, the promise hung in the air, heavy with malice. I will kill Tang Wu and become a butterfly. I will once again become a hunter who hunts the beasts known as martial artists. His gaze fixed on the dying elder. "Tang Wu, you are my greatest prey." Indignity was the final torment. "No, you can't," Tang Wu rasped. "For me, the soul-chasing poison hand, to be killed by a mere dog I raced." With the last of his strength, he defied his fate. I said no. The blade fell. Blood arced through the air. A brilliant torrent of blue energy erupted from Tang Wu's body, a pillar of pure life force reaching for the heavens. It was the culmination of a master's entire existence. Tang Sam sat calmly, absorbing the power, letting it wash over him as the sun's rays finally broke through the clouds, heralding a new dawn. A chime echoed in his mind. A system window materialized before him. "Congratulations. Level up plus 10. LV 14 to LV 24. He considered the notification. 10 levels. It's significant, but it falls short compared to the reputation of the soul-chasing poison hand. I thought I would level up much more. He glanced down at the mangled remains. What a total wreck. Was the experience dispersed because he was already dying? As he pondered this, another notification flashed. First Class Advancement Quest, Vagabond. Kill 100 enemies. Current progress, 99/100. His mind connected the dots. Come to think of it, there's no way Tang Wu fell down here all by himself. He remembered the girl. Tanghua. I haven't spotted her yet, but she must definitely be somewhere nearby. He pulled his blade from the earth and stood, a lone predator in a valley of death. A faint smile touched his lips as crimson butterflies danced around him. His quest was almost complete. His transformation was almost at hand. I only need one more. Elsewhere in the silent ravine, Tanghua stirred. Ugh! Her eyes fluttered open to a world of pain and confusion. She tried to sit up, but a sickening crack of bone sent a shockwave of agony through her. My leg, is it completely broken? Despite the horror, a single thought brought a sliver of hope. But still, I'm alive. Her relief turned to ash as she saw a familiar figure slumped over nearby. Hi, she cried out, ignoring her own pain. Hi, are you okay? She began to crawl toward the unmoving form of the woman who had fallen with her. Just wait a second. Ow! As she crawled, her grandfather's final, desperate roar echoed in her soul. Grandfather told me to live. Her grief morphed into grim determination. I have to survive. I have to survive and return to the Tang clan. Her fingers dug into the broken earth, pulling her ruined body forward. Suddenly, she froze. A shadow fell over her. She looked up, and her blood ran cold. Standing before her, his back scarred with the word hate, was the last person she ever expected to see. Her voice was a choked whisper. You, how are you here? In a landscape bathed in blood-red light, Tanghua kneeled, broken. Before her stood a familiar silhouette, a man who should not be there. The air was thick with the scent of death and disbelief. How are you here? She stammered, the question a fragile whisper against the roar of destruction. Her shock curdled into desperate pleading. And no, I mean, help me. I need to return to the Tang family, but my legs. He remained silent, his gaze fixed upon her. The blade in his hand seemed to drink the hellish light, its stillness a terrifying answer. Her mind flashed back to a gentler time. The great hero Tang Wu, her grandfather, stood before her. He was explaining the way of their clan, a path walked on a razor's edge. We, who build our internal energy using poison, inevitably accumulated in our bodies. The more we train, the more we become poison humans. To demonstrate, he had held a simple iron blade. With a single touch, the potent venom flowing through his veins began to dissolve the metal. It sizzled and smoked, melting away like wax before her young, astonished eyes. This was the power she was meant to inherit. He had placed a hand on her head, his expression soft with pride. Do not slack on your training. One day, you will reach my realm. No, you will become a martial artist who surpasses me. His faith in her had been absolute. The memory shattered, returning her to the horrifying present. The blade in Tang Sam's hand. It was corroded, just like in her memory. The truth crashed down on her like a mountain. You, she breathed, her voice trembling. You killed grandfather. The awful realization ignited her soul with pure fury. How? Grandfather even bestowed his surname upon you, she shrieked, the pain in her voice twisting into rage. With a final, desperate roar of you. Traitor! She lunged, intent on clawing out his heart. He met her charge with chilling indifference, his eyes glowing like crimson coals. Her frantic attack was nothing to him. He was a mountain, she was a wave crashing against stone. In his mind, her struggle was pathetic, meaningless. It was just like crushing bugs. This was the philosophy he now lived by. Anhui, once a province, was now a colossal goo jar, an invention of the heavenly demon castle. Within it, countless insects, warriors, were forced to struggle, to kill and be killed. It was said that the longer the bug survived, the more toxic it became. If all the other bugs die, and only one survives alone, how much will that accumulated toxicity strengthen you, Tanghua? The thought was a cold, calculating whisper in his mind. He saw her not as a cousin, but as a future weapon to be forged. He knelt, bringing his face close to hers. Come to think of it, he mused, his voice devoid of all warmth. Killing you now wouldn't mean much, and it might not even satisfy the quest conditions, because you're weak. Quest? I'm weak? What kind of nonsense is that? Her mind couldn't process his alien logic. Humiliation and rage overwhelmed her, and she slammed her fist into the scorched earth, screaming her frustration into the dirt. He stood and plunged the corroded sword into the ground before her, a monument to his betrayal. Just as you said, I killed Tang Wu, he stated, his gaze boring into her. Therefore, Tang Hua, come claim the price of his life from me. I'll be waiting. Something inside her broke. A primal scream of grief and rage ripped from her throat. I curse you, she howled, stumbling backward over the precipice. As she fell into the abyss, her final vow echoed up from the darkness. You'll regret not killing me now, Tang Sam. He watched her disappear without a flicker of emotion. On Hue no, now the entirety of Murim was one giant goo jar. The orthodox, the unorthodox, and the heavenly demon castle. Soon, countless bugs would swarm the land, killing each other in a grand melee. To survive and hunt, he knew he must become stronger than he was now. He checked the system. One kill remained to advance his class. To hunt more efficiently, he needed to reach the next level. A predatory smile twisted his lips. It was time for a change of scenery. I'm changing my hunting ground, he decided. He would seek a place with more blood, more battles, and more experience points. He turned his back on the cliff and walked toward his new purpose. At the epicenter of Tang Wu's last stand, a devastating explosion had reshaped the landscape. Du Hyo-ok, the shifting shadow, emerged from the dust, furious. That crazy man, detonating hidden weapons in our faces? I thought the Tang clan's heaven-shrouding petal reign was lost. His ally, Ash Shadow, analyzed the aftermath. It wasn't the complete version. He lacked internal energy, and it only had the form. Even so, the sheer power of the blast was terrifying. We got lucky, Du Hyo-ok admitted, wiping sweat from his brow. Their luck lay in a crumpled heap nearby. If we hadn't used Water Shadow as a shield, we would have been annihilated, Ash Shadow noted grimly. The Stronghold Chief was tough, but even with her heart guard protecting her, she was half dead. Du Hyo-ok made a decision. Take Water Shadow and return to Muban. I'll head to the Murim Alliance and prepare the second stratagem. Ash Shadow panicked. What? Wait, you want me to go to Muban alone? He pleaded. Do you really want to see me die? No, we go together. But Du Hyo-ok was already gone, a flicker in the distance. Abandoned in the wasteland, Ash Shadow trembled with a primal fear. Seriously, I'm terrified. Ash Shadow arrived at the imposing gates of the Muban fortress, his men carrying the unconscious Water Shadow. He swallowed hard, steeling his nerves. I can do this, I can do this. Nothing bad will happen. He took a deep, shuddering breath. The great doors groaned open into a vast, silent throne room lit by an ominous red glow. He scrambled across the polished floor, falling to his knees before a shadowed figure seated far away. Muban, he called out, his voice a pathetic tremor in the immense hall. He forced a wide, sycophantic grin. I have successfully completed the first stratagem you ordered without any issues. He tried to sound confident, casual. Oh, of course, Water Shadow was slightly injured, but there really were no issues at all. He babbled on, his words tumbling out. The Namgung clan has been annihilated, and I even took the Patriarch's head myself. The lie was frantic, desperate. Also, Tang Wu is also. His voice hitched, the words dying in his throat. Silence. A single bead of sweat traced a path down his terrified face. The figure on the throne finally moved, turning to face him. The ancient, wrathful eyes of Muban pinned him in place. Repeat that, Ash Shadow. The voice commanded, cold as the grave. Was the first stratagem completed without any issues? Muban's question was not an inquiry. It was a judgment. The ancient being's wrathful, crimson eyes pierced through Ash Shadow's very soul. The air grew heavy, crackling with a pressure that could shatter mountains. Ash Shadow gasped, his bravado crumbling into dust before this immense presence, forcing a lie from his lips that echoed with false confidence in the cavernous hall. But a single lie could not dam the river of truth. A flash of memory, of a monstrous warrior wreathed in cyan light, haunted Ash Shadow. Muban's own network had already reported the deviations. His voice, now laced with an icy calm, cut through the deception, questioning the unsanctioned appearance of shifting shadow at the Murim Alliance. The question struck like hammer blows. Muban's form seemed to drink the light, becoming a silhouette of pure, dreadful authority. He pointed out the catastrophic state of Water Shadow, who had returned broken and near death. Caught in the web of his own falsehoods, Ash Shadow could only stammer, his mind blank with terror under that unblinking, crimson gaze. Mubon's voice dropped to a whisper that carried more weight than any shout. It was a promise of suffering beyond imagination for any future failures. Trembling on the fractured stone, Ash Shadow could only bow his head in submission. In the vast, silent hall, he was less than an insect beneath his master's gaze. Mubon then turned his attention to the fallen water shadow. He knelt beside her broken form, a strange purpose in his cold demeanor. He spoke of an ancient law, that all streams must return to their source. Placing a hand upon her, a terrifying, parasitic art began, drawing her life force and chi ocean directly into himself. This was the return of all streams to the source, a forbidden technique that treated another's entire cultivation as a mere tributary to his own boundless power. Her essence, her very existence, would be consumed and integrated. Through this horrific union, Mubon declared she would find a twisted form of immortality within him. Ash Shadow watched in abject horror, stammering out congratulations for the monstrous act he had just witnessed. Mubon, his power augmented, rose once more. He had one final curiosity, a loose thread in the tapestry of his grand design, and his gaze fell once more upon his terrified subordinate. Done with the games, Mubon seized Ash Shadow's face, his grip like iron. An overwhelming pressure flooded the subordinate's mind, shattering his will to resist. The question was repeated, not with words, but with pure, telepathic force. Broken and terrified, Ash Shadow finally confessed the truth. An unforeseen variable had appeared. The words tumbled out in a panicked rush, relaying Shifting Shadow's report. An unknown warrior who fought alongside the soul-chasing Poison Hand. The key detail was the most shocking. This man was an expert who could emit a brilliant pillar of light. The mention of light captured Mubon's complete and undivided attention. A flash of realization, of ancient memory, ignited in Mubon's eyes. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, forming a picture he had not expected. He uttered 2 names, summoning his most trusted agents. From the shadows, the warrior Guangin acknowledged the call, ready for his master's command. The order was absolute. Bayan and the disgraced Ash Shadow were to retrieve the body of this light-wielding expert from Xianzheng Mountain. Every fragment, every bone, was to be brought before him. Without a word, Bayan vanished in a flicker of movement, already on their way to execute the command. Mubon then turned to Guangin with a second, more perilous command, to contact the mysterious Old Beck. Guangin, for the first time, showed hesitation, warning his master of the danger. But Mubon's silent, unyielding profile was all the answer he needed. With grim acceptance, Guangin also departed, leaving Mubon alone in the throne room. Alone with his thoughts, Mubon replayed the words. A pillar of light. He unconsciously touched the strange, ancient scars on his own neck. A dawning, chilling realization settled upon him. The anomaly, the unexpected variable. It was a level up after all. Miles away, a single black crow descended from the clouds, a tiny speck against the sprawling cityscape. It landed gently before an old man resting on a bench, a man known as Old Beck. He untied the small scroll from the bird's leg, his weathered face showing a flicker of surprise as he read the contents. With the message crumpled in his hand, Old Beck rose and crossed the quiet courtyard. He approached a woman, Miss Yun, who was enjoying her noodles and wine with single-minded focus. He attempted to deliver the news, but Miss Yun, mid-slurp, waved him off, her meal clearly the only thing that mattered. Old Beck stood by, resigned to wait. Yun finished her bowl, then downed the last of her wine with a satisfied ah. Slamming the cup down, she rose and called out to the tavern keeper for her bill. The man smiled, casually telling her the price was 3 coins. As Yun reached for her payment, the tavern owner's friendly demeanor soured. He tooted disapprovingly at her daytime drinking, then offered a lewd invitation to join him for a drink later. His eyes lingered, his intentions clear, but Yun's face remained a blank, dangerous mask. She produced a single, gleaming coin. When the owner greedily pointed out the price was 3, she said nothing. Instead, she flicked the coin high into the air. In a flash of movement, she stomped her foot, and the coin landed, embedded perfectly on its edge, quivering in the stone. The tavern owner stared, speechless at the impossible display. Her aura shifted, her silhouette warping into something terrifying and primal. A chilling voice echoed, devoid of all warmth. Heads or tails? The tavern owner sputtered, demanding she stop the game and just pay. But he was already caught, his gaze locked with her swirling, hypnotic eyes that promised only madness. Utter terror seized him, choking any sound from his throat. He could feel his sanity fraying under her oppressive, otherworldly gaze. A single, pathetic guess escaped his lips, a desperate prayer to an uncaring God. Heads. He had chosen, and now he would face the consequences. A woman with death in her eyes approached the small stall. Her presence was a storm cloud in the clear sky, making the simple merchant tremble. She flipped a coin, a simple game of chance, but her gaze promised it was anything but. The coin landed. Heads. The merchant roared with a joy born of terror. The woman looked away, utterly unimpressed. "How boring," she murmured, her voice colder than a winter wind. The merchant, believing his ordeal was over, stammered a relieved farewell. He began cleaning his stall, his heart still pounding in his chest. He breathed a sigh of relief. "Phew, I almost died over 3 coins." But his relief was cut short. In a flash, the woman was upon him, her hand gripping his hair. A glint of steel, a sharp pain, and then nothing. He collapsed, his life extinguished for the crime of being uninteresting. An old attendant rushed to her side. "My lady, didn't it clearly come up as heads?" He questioned her capricious violence. With a faint smirk, she touched the bloody tip of her hairpin to her lips. She flicked her hand, and the coin, once showing heads, now lay on the ground showing tails. "It's tails now, isn't it?" The attendant let out a weary sigh. "It's difficult to clean up if you do this in broad daylight." Her response was chillingly simple. "So what? We can just kill everyone." The old man's loyalty was absolute. He drew his blade without hesitation. "I will do it." As the attendant walked off to begin the grim task, she called out to him. Her voice was soft, but the question was sharp as a razor. "Ah, old man, about what you were going to say earlier. So, who did you say we had to find?" A hungry smile played on her lips. Far away, within the grand halls of the Murim Alliance, the atmosphere was heavy with dread. Under a blood-red sky, the most powerful figures in the Orthodox faction had gathered. The Murim Alliance leader, the Taoist sage of heaven, stood before them. "Well, it seems everyone is gathered. We will now begin the Murim Great Council." Before he could continue, Peng Mahyek, the hot-blooded patriarch of the Hebei Peng clan, slammed his fists on the table. "Alliance leader, is the rumor true? Was the Namgung clan annihilated by the heavenly demon castle?" From across the room, the Tang family matriarch scoffed, her voice laced with venom. "You fool. Even though Brother Tang has crossed the Yellow Springs, do you still believe it's just a rumor?" The alliance leader held up his hands to calm the rising tempers. He confirmed their worst fears. The Namgung clan had indeed been attacked. The Wudong sect leader roared in fury, while the Shaolin abbot could only chant in sorrow. A great pillar of the Murim had fallen. "They have been quiet for hundreds of years," the leader continued, his voice grave. "It is clear their power is extraordinary." He then made a correction. "No, it is not an extermination, because there is still one survivor." From the shadows, a young woman emerged, bowing deeply. The second daughter of the Namgung clan, Namgung Hai, greets her seniors of the Murim. The council stared in disbelief. "A survivor?" The Tang matriarch's voice cut through the silence, sharp and demanding. "Child of Namgung, then tell us what happened yourself." Namgung Hai gathered her courage. "It is true, the Namgung clan suffered at the hands of the heavenly demon castle. If it hadn't been for Elder Soul-chasing Poison Hand, I would have died there as well." The Zhuge clan patriarch, Zhuge Mun, urged caution. "We must first determine the exact scale of the enemy." But his words were lost on the Tang matriarch. A vision of Elder Tang's horrific death flashed before her eyes. Grief and rage turned to killing intent, her poison chi swirling around her like a living shroud. Peng Mahyek, incensed, slammed the table. "Matriarch Tang, why have you been acting so arrogant? Can't you grasp the situation?" Her response was a furious snarl. "You are the ones who can't grasp the situation. The heavenly demon castle invaded the very courtyard of the Namgung clan. This is their declaration of war." Zhuge Mun tried to inject reason into the fury. "But that is exactly what they want. Countless basins of blood will surely be bled." Unmoved, the matriarch turned her venomous glare to the alliance leader. "Alliance leader, you called us all here. You don't honestly plan to just sit and watch, do you?" All eyes turned to the Taoist sage of heaven. He listened to the arguments, his face an unreadable mask. Then, a slow, predatory smile spread across his lips, and his eyes glowed with a malevolent light. Heh, of course, it is war. His voice resonated with chilling finality. Too much blood of the Orthodox faction has been shed. Isn't it the law of the Murim to pay them back in blood? The Tang matriarch slammed her fist down in agreement. Exactly. A sword for a sword, blood for blood. That is the one immutable rule of the Murim. The alliance leader bowed low, a gesture of profound gravity. Listen well, pillars of the Murim gathered here. As of this moment, the Murim alliance formally declares war against the heavenly demon castle. In the background, unseen by most, a dark smile crept across Namgung Hai's face. Later that night, under a full moon, the alliance leader spoke with Shugaman. He put on a diplomatic face, making excuses for the Tang matriarch. She was blinded by rage over Senior Tang's death. Rumor has it that one of the children returned in a terrible state. Please be generous and overlook her disrespect. Shugaman waved off the apology. I don't mind at all. In fact, the greater the Tang family's rage, the better. A cruel intelligence gleamed in his eyes. It means they'll take the vanguard against the heavenly demon castle more fiercely than anyone else. The alliance leader let out a booming laugh. Ha! This is why I like you, Patriarch Shuga. They walked, two predators planning the hunt. Since we have sent missives to the other sects, all the Orthodox factions will soon unite, Shugaman noted. The alliance leader's smile was wicked, and the Central Plains will shatter hundreds of years of peace. Weren't you sick of it? That we, who are human butchers at our core, have just been sitting at tables wearing the masks of the Orthodox path. Shugaman looked up at the night sky, his expression turning serious. He pointed to a single, baleful red star. As you are aware, Alliance Leader, the cursed killing star has risen. Its timing aligns perfectly with this matter. A star that calls for blood whenever it appears. The Alliance Leader's face split into a grin filled with sharp teeth. However, considering the Murim is already built upon blood and corpses, what significance could one star possibly hold? He bowed mockingly. Of course, I will keep your words in mind, Patriarch Shuga. Then he turned and walked away, a king in his bloody element. Shugamun watched him go, then looked back at the cursed star. He repeated the leader's words, a quiet understanding dawning in his eyes. A Murim built upon blood and corpses. He gazed into the cosmos, no longer seeing an omen, but a simple reflection of their reality. Right, for this place is already the Murim,